a security deposit, and harassment.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 3037, Pasquarello versus Hubbard.
Oh, my goodness. Mr. Pasquarello, you all seem to have a lot of things that you brought to me, and I actually think that you're all overthinking this case. I, however, am not overthinking it. It's relatively simple. You rented a room from the defendant in a house that you own.
Yes, ma'am.
It didn't work out. They didn't like he and his girlfriend? Fiance. Didn't get along with you. You didn't get along with them. You had problems with each other's lifestyles. You are no longer there, and you want your security deposit back, which I, of course, will entertain. But you're asking for emotional distress, nuisance, filing a false restraining order, harassment. That's not happening. I want you to get over that. You had a tenancy that didn't work out. And if it didn't work out, and if you didn't do anything to the property, you're entitled to your security deposit back. You moved in when?
December 1st.
What do you do for a living?
I own a company.
What kind of company?
It's a janitorial company.
For how long?
Approximately 9 years.
Do you have employees?
Yes.
How many?
Approximately 20.
You pay him on the books or off the books?
On.
Was this an interim room that you were renting from him, or were you planning on staying here for a long time?
It was a 6-month lease.
Is there any reason why you took a room, if you have a company for 9 years with 20 employees, that you pay on the books, that you were living in a room?
Yes, I'm going through a divorce. I moved to Los Angeles 2007 and got with my wife for 15 years. We're going through a divorce, and during the pandemic, she was raised in Riverside, so I had to follow her all the way to Riverside because she has 3 of my children. I don't have any family or friends here on this side of the country. I'm from Florida. So I was by myself, and I had to rent a room by myself.
And the children stayed with their mother in the house, in your property?
Yes, we are currently going through a custody battle.
So what you're telling me is that a room was what you could afford?
That's all I could afford at the moment.
Okay.
We're still going through community property.
Okay. So you found his room.
I was moving from one house to another because they were selling their home. The housing market is very, very bad right now. It's very hard to find rent in what I can afford. So I found his, along with 2 others, and I liked his location, and I moved in under the lease agreement that he presented to me.
Okay. So he presented a lease agreement to you. You signed it. You have a copy of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Your Honor, there's a couple of discrepancies with
Just a second.
Sorry.
I didn't ask you anything yet. There were no discrepancies. He rented a room from you and he signed a lease. I asked him to see the lease.
He started moving his belongings in November 13th of 22.
And?
And he officially moved himself in on December 1st.
Why is that important?
When he moved in, he brought a refrigerator into the house that was infested with roaches.
Just a second. Do you have a copy of the lease?
Yes, I do.
I'm trying to go through it. I have so much here that...
I know, you have a lot there.
Okay. Here it is. I found it, by the way.
All right, there's a very big lease with your signature on it on November 7th. Okay, so now I have the lease. You moved in on December 12th. When did you move out?
When my girlfriend got back from her trip from Spain and Italy is when I was able to move, because she was able to help me. I couldn't do it by myself. I don't remember the exact date.
You have the date when he moved out?
Yes. So I have a timeline here. 4/21, he moved out, and at that point,
Okay,
he still had that.
4/21.
Yep.
And what was the monthly rent, sir?
1,000.
And how much was your security?
500. If I could say, Your Honor, I'm not here because we had a little spat.
No, I know you didn't have a spat. It was a terrible 4 months.
It's a breach of a lease, Your Honor. I mean, they had 3 rules. It says it right here in his lease, 3 rules and regulations. And on the 17th, I got a new set of rules. Then I was only told I can do my laundry once a week. Then I was told that my girlfriend couldn't stay past 9 o'clock. The rules were changing as they went on, making my life a living hell.
Well, then you move. How old are you?
I'm going to be 50, and this
You're
is my
going to be
very
50.
first...
Just a second, you're going to be 50.
Yeah.
Okay. And, you know, Rules are what people live by. I assume that that's one of the reasons that you're going through a divorce and you have custody, unless it was a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I don't know which one it was, and I actually don't care. What I'm telling you is, if something is terrible and you're 50 years old, you say, I'm done here. I'm leaving.
I was going to do that, Your Honor. I was looking for places to stay. The housing market is almost impossible in my...
So what is, that's not his fault. That's your fault.
It's not his fault for taking away my quiet peace and enjoyment of life? Filming me with my cameras in the house, not telling me I'm being monitored?
Let me explain something to you, sir. You're a big boy. I say this to people all the time. You don't like where you're staying, move.
I could.
Sometimes I have sympathy for somebody who is really down and out, and they say, I really can't cobble the money together to find month's rent and a month's security. I was trying to save my money. That's not in your case. You've had a business for 9 years with 20 employees who you pay on the books, and you have 3 children. So that's not your situation. What I'm telling you is, not everything is a lawsuit. And I know that you're suing him for $10,000 because he violated the peaceful enjoyment of your life. Okay? Move.
Keith Pasquarello claims his former landlord, Brandon Hubbard, destroyed his property and harassed him. Brandon is countersuing for pest control fees and filing a false restraining order.
You're a grown man. You run a big business. You're not supposed to stay in a place that's terrible.
Judge, the business is in community property right now, and...
I don't care. That's not his fault.
I don't own the full business. I don't get the full money.
Hey, I'm telling you, I asked you what you did. You said, I own a business. I have 20 employees. It's a janitorial business, and I needed a place right away. I took his room, and what I'm telling you is, you have a car?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Where does your girlfriend live?
She lives 2 cities away.
Okay, well.
But there's another aspect of this, Your Honor. That's why there's so much evidence up here. I was being harassed so much that I didn't know what to do anymore. I was given advice by an attorney, stop paying him, and you will deal with it when you go to the unlawful detainer hearing, and we'll see if it gets solved there.
You went to an attorney? Just a second.
Yes.
You consulted with an attorney who gave you advice?
Yes.
Is this an attorney that you knew who worked for you? Or is this someone that you found that was a specialist in this field of landlord and tenant?
It's someone that was a specialist in this field. Problem is, this is Riverside and this is Los Angeles. He's a Los Angeles.
I don't care. Now, lawyers don't work for free. What did he charge you?
Nothing. It was a consultation.
Charged you nothing for a consultation?
It was a 20-minute conversation.
20 minutes?
Yes.
I get a bill for 20 minutes for $750. I don't know how you got your consultation for nothing. So, and I don't necessarily believe it, but I actually find it amusing for a lawyer to tell you, well, stop paying rent, and you'll deal with it when you come up with an unlawful detainer because you are staying without paying rent.
Your Honor, I filed an incident with Fair Housing. I called the police 4 times.
I'm telling you to move.
I couldn't move, Your Honor.
What are you?
I couldn't move. I couldn't
Okay,
move.
Mr. Pasquarello, I can't help you, sir. You want your security deposit back? I have to see if you left a mess. If you didn't leave a mess, then you get your $500 security back. Except, I have a question. Did you pay December's rent?
Yes, yes.
Did you pay January's rent?
Yes.
February?
Yes.
March?
You did not pay February.
Don't speak. Sorry. March's rent.
I didn't pay March or April, but it was already litigated.
No. I don't care. You moved out April 21.
Yes.
Did you pay March's rent? I'm going to ask you for proof.
I don't believe I paid March's
Okay,
rent.
so you didn't pay March's rent of $1,000. So already you don't get your security deposit back.
But he was already awarded this in a previous case.
What? Previous case?
In the previous case, he was awarded in the unlawful detainer hearing. The judge granted him March and April.
Oh, so he got March and April's rent.
Yeah, he got March and he didn't receive it.
And just a second. Yeah. Did you pay him March and April's rent?
No, I haven't. Not at the moment.
Well, I'm not an appellate court. You have to go get that from someplace, sir. You have to get that from him. You have to file a judgment. You have to attach his business. You have to do what you have to do. If the judge awarded you March and April, which I would have considered. Anyway, Mr. Pasquarello, I'm done with your case. I'm going to get to the counterclaim. You're not entitled to security deposit back because you didn't pay rent for 2 months. Okay, now let's get to your counterclaim. You had a hearing before a judge in an unlawful detainer?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and you testified? Speak.
Sorry.
Not we.
eviction
That's
was
either a
granted.
yes or a no. Did you testify?
Yes.
Somebody say, raise your right hand, you swear to tell the
Yes.
truth? And judge asked you questions?
Yes.
And you answered questions?
Correct.
Did the same thing for him?
Yes.
And they ordered him to pay the 2 months' rent?
Yes.
And then he left?
Yes.
And he's no longer living with you as of April 21st?
Correct.
Okay. What did you tell that judge that he owed you aside from rent? Is not an answer. What did you tell the judge that he owed you other than March and April's rent?
I told the judge that he owed me for the court harassment hearings.
Now, just a second. I'd like to see where you don't, not from a book that you have.
Sorry.
Show me where you told the judge other things that you were claiming he did, including the parking fines in the development.
So this is everything that he owes me here.
I didn't ask you for everything he owes you.
With
That's not what I asked you. I said, what did you tell the judge in the previous hearing that he owed you?
I only asked for the back rent due.
Oh, so what are you showing me?
This was for the small claims case.
Just a second. So after you went before a housing court to get him out because he hadn't paid rent, you went to small claims court.
I was just responding to a civil case that he had filed against me.
Well, his civil case is dismissed. Okay?
That's what
He hasn't paid a judgment that he owes. May I see that, please?
Your Honor, he also asked the judge. Okay, he also, okay,
Just a second.
sure.
Okay. Value of the remainder of the lease. That you're not getting.
Okay.
You happy to see him go?
Yes.
Great, he's gone. Court filing fees. I may think about that because he stopped paying rent on the advice of some idiot lawyer that he followed, this man who owns a business. Sheriff's filing fees. What fees were that for? For the unlawful
to serve
detainer?
him the eviction paperwork to post it on the door.
Crisis management fees. What is that?
That was for my advice to with the lawyer.
You don't get that. A valve that went over something?
Oh, his parking ticket.
Yeah, he got a parking fine when he was living there.
Oh, well, I have that. A parking fine.
Yes.
Are you responsible for that?
Yes, I already paid it. I have
All
the
right,
receipt
can I
here.
see how much was the parking fine?
The parking fine was $50.
Okay. Did you know that you got a violation, sir, Mr. Pasquarella, when you were parking?
Yes, Judge, I would love to explain that. In one of the text messages that I have, Allie, his fiance, threatened to have my car ticketed. I have been living at Canyon Lake for 3 years. I had never even came close to getting a ticket. Ironically, 2 weeks later, I get a ticket right after she threatens to have my car ticketed to the POA. Now, to my understanding, she's been in Canyon Lake for a very, very long time, since she was a little girl, and she has relationships there. I
don't know that. You can't prove any of that, sir. You got a ticket.
So
you got a ticket. They have a picture. You have a car that the license plate is.
I also have a text message of her saying she's going
Just
to
a
get my
second.
car
I'm just
ticketed.
asking you whether that's your license plate.
Yes, it is. When the harassment wouldn't stop,
His former landlord, Brandon Hubbard, of destroying his property and harassing him. Brandon is countersuing for breaching the lease and filing a false restraining order.
This is a filing fee for small claims court. That you're not getting.
Your Honor, I wouldn't have to have
Writ
any
of
this money
possession
out of
is
pocket.
$40. Is that what you're talking about, the writ of possession?
Yes.
That you're entitled to because you stopped paying rent. So far, he owes you $90 for the filing fee.
And then I have another receipt for no return of the POA ID card or the POA decal for his car.
What is that?
Because we live in a gated community, you have an ID card that they give you and a decal that they put on your car so you don't get tickets. Or if you
And?
do get a ticket, they know whose house to send it to. And that was $100 each, and I have a receipt for that.
Can I see what he's showing you?
And it says his name right at the top.
Did you pay this bill?
I did.
Would you please, Kevin, show this to the plaintiff? You know what that's for?
It's
your name on it.
It's a POA card. That card was thrown away in the trash. I mean, I don't have no use for it.
Then that's a problem. Then you owe him $200. That's $290. Anything else, sir?
I believe that the small claims fee is...
Forget it. I'm not
Should-
giving you the small claims
should
fee.
be
Let's
awarded.
go. Let's
Okay.
go.
I lost another tenant due to Keith's behavior.
Let's go.
And
Let's move on. Move on.
he owes me $900 in lost rent from that other tenant.
No, he
leaving
doesn't.
Because he's
I
scared.
said let's move on.
Okay.
So far, he owes you $290.
And the court harassment filing fees. They're charging me $450 to respond to a restraining order that he put forth.
Oh, just a minute. Did you file a restraining order against him?
I sure did.
Okay. And when did you file that?
I don't remember the exact date.
Do you have the date? If you don't remember the date, do you have
It
the
was January 28th.
January 28th
That was the day I was served with the paperwork. And
of
my, witness.
2023.
Yes. My witness was also served with one, too.
Just a second. It's my question, Mr. Pasquarello. You moved out in April of 2022?
23, he moved out.
23. And when did you file this harassment case against him for an order of protection?
I don't remember the exact date.
Well, can I see the papers, please?
I believe I have them here.
When the harassment wouldn't stop, I filed a restraining order.
Okay, so March 27th. That's a response. Hold on. Let's see if I have the actual filing date.
Can I see it, please?
2023. Here's the receipt for the $145 for the evictions process.
I can't hear a word you're saying, sir. I'm reading.
Okay.
Well, this is your filing against him.
So I did file one a month later once he started getting aggressive.
Okay, so he filed one and you filed one. So you both bothered the courts,
Yes.
both of you. What happened with those cases?
Why don't
His
you
was-
fill in
Don't
the
speak
POs?
from your chair. Do you hear me? What happened with those cases?
They were both dropped.
Mine was dismissed by the judge. The
I
judge
just,
said-
were they both dismissed?
both
Yes, they were
dismissed.
both.
That's the answer. You owe him, Mr. Pasquarella, $290. We are finished. Your claim is dismissed. Goodbye.
This court is adjourned.
throwing my property away, you know, blaming me for a roach problem they already had.
He moved a little mini fridge in that apparently was roach infested.
I was done with it months ago, many months ago, but unfortunately I couldn't move. I'm in a town where, you know, I don't have any friends or family to help me. I just met my girlfriend, and I'm not going to bring this luggage on her. So
He was trying to squat for free in order to save money to move somewhere else. I don't know what he was trying to do.
I'm ready to move forward, but the thing I'm disappointed about is not even the money necessarily. It's about there's no protection for tenants.
Watch out and really understand your lease before you sign it.
You know, Sarah, I understand that you don't completely agree with the premise that I start from.
Sure.
If you hate where you're living and you have any capability at all, you shouldn't stay there. And then if you leave and your landlord sues you for breach of the lease because you've moved out, and if you have a legitimate reason why you moved out, that you were being harassed, that your landlord was a peeping Tom, that he would come into your house at night and go through your underwear drawers, whatever it was, and we've had all of those, then you entertain that and say you hate an absolute right to break his lease. I don't get, and the example that I always give and have given for a quarter of a century is, if you go to a restaurant and you order a sirloin steak and the waiter brings it over and you cut it and you taste it, you say, oh my God, this steak is bad. And you proceed to finish the steak, and when the bill comes, you say, it was the worst steak I ever ate, I'm not paying the bill. Not in my world. In my world, if you cut into the steak and say, you know what, I'm not eating this steak that costs $42, bring me a bowl of Cheerios for $12, that I can understand, and that's fair. But if you stay in the house and eat the steak, and there's not something that really prohibits you. I mean, if you're somebody who's challenged and you're living in a small group home, and it's not easy for you to find another facility, that's a whole different ball of wax. This is a man who says he's a CEO of a company with 20 employees. That's what he told me. And he's living in a place where he feels harassed and his girlfriend can't stay past 9 o'clock. You know, I have zero sympathy for that.
I can appreciate that. I think just the undertones, this particular situation, I may agree with you a little bit more after hearing your reasoning, but I do think it can be more challenging than you and I realize on occasion to move. I mean, that can be a big deal. And of course, he held himself out as a CEO with 20 employees in a what he said was successful business. I'm thinking that that wasn't the case, and he was a little maybe too embarrassed to state that, but that was my position. So,
yeah, but that's the answer he gave.
If you have the opportunity to leave, that's what you should do. I agree with that.
And he left, and he came here with his girlfriend. Now, I don't know if they're living in the same place now, but certainly she would come to visit him. That was one of the things that he was objecting to, that you couldn't stay past 9 o'clock. Well, so you put your tushy in the car and you go to her house, which is 2 cities away. I have zero sympathy. If you ate the steak, you're supposed to pay for it.
Kaylee Kovleski is suing her aunt, Brenda LaFountain, for personal belongings after moving out of Brenda's house.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 3024, Lukoski versus Fountain.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You were in the military?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you get out of the military?
December 14th, ma'am.
December 14th of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
At that time, you had no job, you had no place to live, and the defendant is your aunt.
Yes, ma'am.
I assume you called her and asked her if you could live with her?
No, ma'am. My mom refused to pick me up from the Appleton airport.
And?
My aunt, Brenda, was the only option at the time.
Just a second. My question to you is, she would have to know that you needed a place to live. The question is designed to elicit an answer. Did you call her or did she call you?
I called my mom and my mother called my Aunt Kelly, which is Brenda's sister, and worked it out with Brenda that I would stay with her.
I didn't ask you about staying with. When did you first have a conversation with your aunt?
The day she picked me up from the airport.
What date?
December 15th.
She picked you up from the airport. Had you had any conversation with her prior to her getting to the airport? How you would be arriving, what time, where to pick you up, where you would meet? Did you have any conversation either by text or on the phone?
No, ma'am, I did not have a cell phone.
So you had no conversation with her?
No, ma'am.
Okay. December 15th, she picked you up, got into the car, and?
We went back to her house with my Aunt Kelly and Brenda, and I moved there.
Well, tell me how that happened. You're a big girl. Tell me how that happened.
Yes, ma'am. I got back from the airport. They picked me up. We went back to her house. We figured everything out.
Not figured everything out. Not figured everything out. You said to her, she said to you, somebody said, you don't have a place to live. Could I live with you? I want to hear that.
Yes, ma'am. They said I could stay rent-free.
Not they.
Brenda said I could stay rent-free.
Well, how did she know you didn't have a place to live? Did you tell her you had no money and no place to live?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well, that's what I want to know.
Yes, ma'am.
When did that conversation take place?
The night after picking me up at the airport on December 15th.
So where did you sleep that night?
At Brenda's house.
Okay. And had you ever lived with your aunt before?
No, ma'am.
So you moved in with your aunt and uncle, and they agreed that you could stay there until you got on your feet.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, there's nothing wrong with you, right?
No, ma'am.
What city and state do you live in?
I live in New Holstein, Wisconsin.
Okay. And so you moved in December. Lots of temporary jobs around Christmas. Did you get a job?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing?
I was putting together molds for birdseed.
How much were you paid?
I was paid around $17 an hour.
How long did that job last?
2 months, ma'am.
From January to February?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay any expenses to your aunt and uncle while you were working in January and February?
No, ma'am.
What date did you move out?
March 20th, ma'am.
Where were you working in March?
I was a guest service member. I would tend to customers as in like a cashier and
how much were you making there?
$16.50, ma'am.
How much money did you put away during this period of time, January, February, and March, where you were working and not paying any rent?
I had about $500 in my bank. I did get in a really bad car accident, and in that time period, so...
Which time period?
I got into a car accident in late February.
Whose car?
My car.
When did you buy a car?
This was before boot camp, ma'am.
So you had a car. You had to get the car from someplace. Where did you leave the car when you went into the armed services?
Stevens Point, Wisconsin, where I was born.
At whose house?
My friend that I was staying with before boot camp.
So you were in a car accident sometime in February?
Yes, ma'am.
And so no payments to your aunt in January, February, or March. And tell me about when they asked you to leave.
It was an argument. I calmly sat down and I was told that I was, quote unquote, a burden and using them. and it was a very heated argument on that I do nothing around the house while, I was living there. And I refused to put up with that because I did do a fair share amount while they were using my information to get heat assistance and food stamps. And so it's not like I didn't provide them any help. They had help through the state.
Well, that's not you helping them.
No, ma'am.
Right. That has nothing to do with you. So you left.
Yes.
And it was a heated argument. And that argument took place on what date?
That argument took place, if I remember correctly, on March 18th.
And you left March 20th.
Yes, ma'am.
So on March 20th, you decided to leave.
Yes.
Great. And you packed all your stuff.
No, ma'am.
Well, you should have, because that's what this case is about. You should have. If you decided to leave on March 18th after living with your aunt and uncle on their dime for 3 months, and you decided to leave after a heated argument, according to you, on March 18th, you should have packed all your underwear and left, not leave a few things with tags on it.
Yes, ma'am.
You should say to your aunt and your uncle, thank you very much for taking care of me for 3 months, not sue them.
I never got to really know my aunt that much, so I wanted to have space after the argument to try to decompress because I don't do well with
What do you mean? Just a second. What do you mean you don't know your aunt too well?
I lost my dad, so I never really got to have a connection with them. I lived in Stevens Point with my mom, and so this was an opportunity to really live with my aunt and be a part of their life.
Okay, I'm not going to get into your history because I see that you're getting too emotional. That's not going to happen. What I'm suggesting to you is, especially if it's someone that you don't have a connection with, who did you a kindness and it unfortunately didn't work out. Your response to that is not suing them for some alleged underwear that you left behind when you had time to pack all your stuff. Did you still have a car or was it totaled in the February accident?
I did not have a car anymore.
Okay, so who picked you up from your aunt and uncle's house?
My best friend, Emily, did.
Okay.
It was March 18th. I slept over for 2 days and made the final decision to move out on the 20th. I have the text messages here.
So you slept at your friend's house March 18th and March 19th.
Yes, ma'am.
And you brought clothes with you.
Yes, ma'am, a week's worth.
And March 20th, you decided to move out completely.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And you went back to the house?
Yes, and all the doors were locked.
That is not true.
Shh. Did you ultimately go into the house?
No, ma'am.
You never went back into the house after March 18th?
No, ma'am.
Well, then what did you go there for on March 20th?
I had to contact the police to get my things, which they packed up. They refused to let me in the house. And then I went back into the house March 20th to pick up my belongings that were set outside.
Okay, well, that's fine. You took the important stuff with you because you were going for a week, so anything valuable you took with you. Okay, let's get to your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is you claim that your niece damaged the house while she was living there.
Yes, Your Honor.
Show me. Show me.
I have many pictures and an estimate for the damages of the...
You sure about this? You sure about you want me to see this?
Yes, please.
Okay, good.
Kaylee Kovleski claims her aunt, Brenda LaFountain, is wrongfully keeping her belongings. Brenda is countersuing Kaylee for property damage.
Okay, what I see here is a mess. I don't know what this is. What is this?
That is a burn from a candle on top of a new dresser.
Of a dresser.
Nightstand.
I assume this is you showing me that she left a bowl of food on here.
Yes, ma'am.
But, okay, not nice, but I'm getting to know it. I'm getting to understand it. And this?
Similar.
I mean, was that the same day? Was that March 18th? Was it March 20th? Or did you go?
March 20th, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I finally moved into where I'm staying. Everything is unpacked, and I realized that I'm missing over 40 Victoria's Secret pennies. What is that?
Underwear, Your Honor.
Pennies?
Panties.
And that I don't have 90% of my regular underwear, so I will be over tomorrow to grab those.
Yes.
That was on April 9th.
I have the text messages before that.
I don't care about the text messages before that. You moved out on March 20th, and you're sending her something on April 9th that you finally unpacked and you realize you're missing underwear.
Yes, because they packed up my stuff on March 20th, Your Honor.
Yeah,
and
this was April 9th.
I realized that I was missing my stuff.
On when? On
March
April 9th.
When I finally had the opportunity to go through my things fully.
Okay, well, I'm sorry about that. Okay, the only thing I want to show you, aside from the mess and the food mess, the only picture that I want to show you is this, and I want you to tell me how this happened.
Your Honor, did you get to the closet?
Yeah, I don't care about the closets. I want you to tell me how that happened.
So this is a rabbit hide, Your Honor. It's a real rabbit hide.
Not the rabbit hide. I'm not talking about the rabbit hide. I'm talking about what happened under the rabbit hide.
Applied to it, so the bottom of the hide, that's what it is.
How did that happen?
You have a wax melter for scent that they gave to me.
So you burned something on that, it got too hot, and the bottom of whatever that skin is.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that was you.
Yes, ma'am.
How much is it going to cost to refinish the top of that? Do you have an estimate for that?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay, that's too bad. Your claim is dismissed. You should say thank you to your aunt and uncle, and you left the house pretty messy when you left there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're done.
This court is adjourned.
It is what it is.
She did notice that Kaylee's room was a disastrous mess.
I was given a place to stay by my aunt, and that was nice of her, but she's just not a good person.
She was an entitled brat, and we were not going to play into that.
I'm just ready to move forward. Yeah.
I wish her the best in her endeavors.
I knew there had to be more to the story there when the plaintiff said, first, right off the bat, that her mother refused to pick her up from boot camp. That sounds unusual to someone who hears it, so I knew there had to be more there, but I felt bad for this aunt and uncle. It seemed like they were, again, no good deed goes unpunished. They took her in, and they had a kerfuffle, as you would say. You know, they didn't get along. She was a little messy.
Not a little messy.
She didn't learn that at boot camp, but no. They didn't mesh well, and maybe it wasn't the relationship the plaintiff was hoping that she would find or uncover, in her new family.
Sounds to me as if she took advantage of them. The condition of that room.
I didn't see all the photos that you saw. I saw portions of them, but
the condition of that room was deplorable, really deplorable. And food in there, and old food, dried up food, and this is their home.
I'd have to be very comfortable with my closest aunt and uncle to even eat in the bedroom. So I agree with that point.
I don't even allow Poppy to eat in the bedroom.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they did something that they thought was good, and it turned out to be really bad.
Yeah.
And shouldn't discourage people from wanting to help them. But gratitude is a good word. Yeah. Suing is not.
Dominique Rogers is suing her neighbor, Tamela Thomas, for taking her French bulldog puppy without permission.
Court come to order. Hello, Judge. Case number 3008, Rogers versus Thomas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your complaint indicate that you're a dog breeder.
Yes,
What kind of dogs do you breed?
Frenchies.
How long have you been doing that?
Actually, just now starting. It's my first time.
So that's not your business. What do you do?
For a living, I am a customer service representative.
From whom did you purchase these two dogs that you had? One Ghost that was 1.5 years old. I assume that that's a male.
Yes. He was purchased from a breeder in Pontiac, Michigan.
When he was a puppy?
Yes.
And the second dog that you got was a female, and you intended, I assume, to breed those two dogs.
Yes.
And that was a 13-week-old French bulldog.
Correct.
That you got from where?
From a local breeder who's been breeding Frenchies for 30 years in my city, Muskegon, Michigan.
This is what your complaint, I'm reading it. I'm sort of wide-eyed reading it. You got two dogs, the puppy you got in February. You let the dogs out to use a potty break. The property that you let them out on is not fenced. The puppy was 13 weeks old. You let a 13-week-old puppy out with a dog that was probably used to going in and out. You let that 13-week-old puppy out alone. And you claim that the defendant stole the puppy. That's your claim.
Yes.
So my first question to you is, why in the world would you let a 13-week-old puppy out in an unfenced area? Why? What were you thinking?
I was just letting her out to use the bathroom. This is something that I normally do.
No, you don't. You just got this puppy. She was 13 weeks old.
Well, I've had the 13-month-old dog for over a year.
Well, that I understand. I mean, that's also foolish. But I understand if you've had the dog for over a year, and you've trained the dog to come home, that it knows where to come, but not the puppy. What were you thinking about? That the older dog would discuss with the younger dog not to run off, but to use potty and then run back into the house? I don't understand what you were thinking. I mean, I've had dogs all my life. 13-week-old puppies, they don't know where they're going. Anyway, you let the dog out on what date?
February the 27th.
What time?
Around 2 o'clock.
And what time did you realize that the little girl was missing?
Not even 15 minutes later.
So what did you do?
I quickly put on my shoes and I started walking down the street calling the dog's name.
And?
I didn't see him.
And?
I see a neighbor who's behind an abandoned house that's on the corner, and I asked him had he seen my puppy.
You cannot tell me what anybody said to you.
Okay, so I'm just asking around. They started telling me.
You can't tell me what anybody told you, madam.
Okay.
Is this a witness who saw something, or is this just somebody here to keep you company while you're here?
She's a witness.
Tell me your name.
Lana Carson.
Ms. Carson, do you live on the same block?
I do not.
What are you a witness to?
I'm an animal control officer for our county. That afternoon on the 27th, I was scheduled for various welfare checks for animals. One of the calls that I had to go by the area. So as I was coming down the road, on the left-hand side, there was a house that must have had a recent fire or something, and there were several people that were standing out in the house. So it caught my attention. Right where that house was on the corner, we had to make a left-hand turn to get to the address that we were going to.
Not her address?
Not her address. My call
Somebody
was
else.
unrelated. As I came around the corner, there were 2 French bulldogs that were in this front yard. One was like a tan and white. It was an older, bigger dog. And then the other one was a small tan puppy. 2 dogs were running loose, so it, of course, caught my attention. I am the dog catcher. So as the dogs were in this yard, I just kind of kept an eye on.
Because there were no fences there.
In this particular yard, there was a fence, but there was an opening. And there was a lady that was in the yard, and she bent down and picked up the small tan puppy and was holding the puppy, but the other dog, the bigger dog, got through a hole that was in the fence. It was an open gate. So I immediately rolled down the window and said, "Do you need help with this? Do you want me to grab the dog?" And the gal who was holding the tan puppy said, "No, he's got it." And I said, "Okay." Now, at this time, I'm in an unmarked vehicle because we were on welfare checks.
When she said, "No, he's got it," did you see any male there?
There was a male that was standing in the driveway of this house. So I did see somebody. And so when she said, "No, he's got it," I was assuming it was the gentleman because I did see somebody in that driveway. She was still holding the tan puppy. The adult dog then ran another house down. I'm like, okay, I didn't see anybody coming around the corner. She was standing there holding that tan puppy. I asked again, "Are you sure you don't want me to grab this dog?" And she once again said, "No, he's got it." Then I started getting a little, frustrated because this dog is still making its way down the block.
Down the block, untethered?
Untethered.
And unaccompanied.
Correct. So another house down, the dog kind of jettied back behind a yellow house. And one last time, because I made a comment to my coworker who was riding with me that day, I said, well, chances are we're going to be getting a call for a lost Frenchie that day. So at that time, when I saw the dog go behind this house, again, I hollered back. I said, "That dog is down here," and then that was it. So we went on to our call. She was still standing there with the tan puppy.
Is that person in court today?
Yes.
She saw...
Dominique Rogers claims her neighbor, Camilla Thomas, stole her French bulldog puppy and gave it away.
Is that person in court today?
Yes.
That's the defendant?
Yes.
When you got the call that a dog was missing, that was a Frenchie from that area, did you make contact with the plaintiff?
So the same day, Dominique did call in a missing dog. The next day, however, because we did, crazy enough, get a Frenchie in. So our office called Dominique and said, "Please come down to the shelter. That's our protocol." So we asked people to come down to the shelter. That day I was working actually in office, not out in the field. And so Dominique, when she came into the shelter and said, "Hey, I got a call," part of our protocol is we ask that the owner gives us a picture of the dog. And so she showed me a picture of the dog.
It wasn't the dog that
It
you
wasn't the dog that
you
was
had in the
there.
shelter, but you recognized the dog.
Very much. I said, oh my gosh, this is the dog that I saw yesterday.
How far does the plaintiff live from where you saw the defendant holding the puppy?
About 3 doors down.
Okay, all is now in your court. Let's go. Do you remember her?
What?
Do you remember her?
I remember a lady saying something one time in a white van. If she was the lady in the white van, that's someone did talk to me.
The lady in the white van says that she asked you 3 times. Did I get that?
True.
3 times. Do you need help here? Tell me what you were doing with her dog.
If she seen me, she seen a guy at the
Don't
corner.
tell me what she saw. She saw you picking up from a front yard. I assume it's yours.
No, not my front yard. It's the house across the street.
So you saw the 2 Frenchies, the big one and the little one, in a yard across the street from you?
Yeah, I seen the...
Just shh.
Yes.
And you crossed the street.
Yes.
You crossed the street and picked up the puppy.
They were trying to catch it.
Who was trying to catch it?
2 guys I seen out there. They were trying to catch it. They wasn't by each other at first. It was a small one by the opening, and there was a bigger one. I didn't see that one till later. Like, I seen the small one first. They were trying to catch it. So they the dog, trying to get the dog. So I went across the street. I grabbed the little one. It was almost by the fence. Okay, so I grabbed the dog. As soon as I picked up the dog, I lifted it up. She said, asked the question 1 time, that's it. And she kept going. I never seen her no more. I never held it. She never came back again because it was that fast. I went right back across the street. I handed the dog off and left.
To who?
It was a guy. It was 2 cars parked on the side. It was a silver car, and I'm not sure what other vehicles right there, but they were both outside the car. And I handed the dog off because they were already out there when I came outside.
You see any 2 men?
I saw a lady with long black hair, long gray coat. There was a gentleman with a black coat and a black hat, and then there was another woman there.
Another woman? Mm-hmm. When did you first find out, Miss Thomas, that this dog belonged to the plaintiff?
The next day.
Tell me how you found out.
The police officer came and asked me, have I seen these dogs? He was going around house to house. And I said, yes, I seen them yesterday. And I told them I handed it off to a male.
And you didn't say anything to him, didn't have an exchange of conversation?
He said, thank you. I was really trying to get my groceries out the car at the time, and I had a little baby. I went back. My mom was in the house at the time with the baby. That was baby. I didn't ever have no conversation.
This is your mother?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Step up, please. Tell me your last name.
Phillips.
You remember the day that your daughter is talking about, which is February 27th?
Yes.
How do you remember it?
She came back in the house. I asked her, did she need any more help getting the groceries out? Because I was in there watching the baby. And she said, no, she got everything. And then...
So she said, no, I have everything.
Yeah. She told me she got all the stuff out the car. And then she wanted to say, she said, these people was out there. I had helped the people get their dog. I thought she was being a good Samaritan. I didn't know this was going to take effect like this. I thought she was just being a good Samaritan, and that was it.
Do you have any dogs?
No.
Does your daughter have any dogs?
No.
Did the 2 of you live together?
No.
When had you arrived at her house that day?
I know it was in the daytime. It was kind of early when I got over there. I usually go to work, come home.
Not how usually. I want you to tell me what time you got there. You remember everything about that day.
Had been probably about 12.
You got there at 12?
About 12.
And what time did she leave for the grocery?
Probably about an hour and a half of me being there, about an hour and a half.
So she left about 1:30?
Probably about 1, because she was back. She didn't get a lot of stuff. Probably about 1.
And what time did she return?
She wasn't gone real long, about 45 minutes probably.
So she was back by 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
And what time did you see the defendant with the puppy?
Probably shortly before 2 o'clock.
Miss Carson, you've heard Miss Thomas say that when she came home from grocery shopping, she saw these 2 dogs across the street. One of them was a small puppy. She went over and picked up the small puppy. She believed that these 2 men, she said 2 men, you said you saw a man and a woman, and the dog belonged to them. She turned the puppy over to them. You're an animal control officer. Is anything that you saw on that date inconsistent with what the defendant just told me?
I do know that there was a female there. There was a male. She was already over on the side of the house where the dogs were, and she was picking them up.
Who was picking them up?
I'm sorry, the defendant had picked up The dog.
puppy.
Yeah, I did not see anybody else trying to get these dogs. She was the only one that was in pursuit of these two dogs and just picked up the one, and then it was just kind of like, oh no, he's got it, you know. That's why I was kind of, this dog is getting away. There wasn't a lot of, you know, intent on getting that other one. That's why I was following it. So I did not see anybody else that was trying to help get those dogs.
When did the people approach you and say, this is my dog? She didn't see anybody.
They were already out there, and they were trying to get the dogs already. And that's when I came across the street, and then the little one started going that way, and I grabbed it. And I went right back to that corner and handed the dog off. She seen me hand the dog off. When the police asked me, I told them, I said, a white van rolled past and everything. I said, they were there. She was like, did I see Pound Buddies? I said, no. Because she said she was in an unmarked car. I'm thinking maybe that was them, but I'm like, I seen a lady in a white van. That's it. And she seen me hand the dog off, and I went back across the street with the long coat. I walked right. I didn't have no dog in my hand, not even 5 seconds. I picked the dog up and straight handed it off. So how would you dare and ask me 3 times that I need help? You didn't ask me no 3 times, nothing about no help.
When I came out,
Dominique Rogers has accused her neighbor, Tamela Thomas, of stealing her French bulldog puppy. Tamela claims she gave the dog to a man she thought was the owner.
Okay, Miss Rogers, you know how all this could have been avoided?
if I wouldn't have ever let my dogs out unattended.
Right, which you're not supposed to do anyway. Not the big one, and certainly not the little one. And I'm not prepared to label Miss Thomas a thief based upon what I heard. I'm just not prepared to do that. I think that there could be a scenario where that happened. But even based upon your witness's testimony, I'm not prepared to do that, to label her a thief. So what other evidence do you have to show me that she was a conspirator in waiting for you to let your dogs outside and stealing the puppy?
I'm not saying that she was a conspirator to waiting. I certainly left the opportunity open. I have a big sorry yard. I'm a renter. Me and my landlord have went back and forth many a times.
Has nothing to do with your landlord. It has only to do with you. It has only to do with you. That's what leashes are for.
I understand. And so with that being said, I have a police report.
I'd like to see it.
She says, okay.
On the 28th of February, Dominique stated that a French bulldog was stolen from the side yard of her residence. She was told that a taller black male came into the yard and took her dog. She stated that the male subject was wearing a red coat with a white hat. Huh? Who told you that?
That's what I was trying to tell you when the neighbor, and you told me don't mention that. This is the one, the top page is the one that I'm showing you where she admits.
Where she what? Admitted that she handed the dog off to somebody in a car that she thought was the owner. That's what she's saying. I thought that this was the owner.
She said in the car, but then she just said a few seconds ago that they were standing next to each other, and she gave us not in the car.
He had been in a silver car.
Yeah.
He had been in a silver car.
Can I also say this, ma'am?
Yeah.
When I came outside with my other dog, Tamela crossed my path, seen me out there looking ugly and stupid, calling my dog and crying. She walked right past me.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. In that gray coat and that long black hair. She's so pretty. I didn't think she cared about my dogs. So I didn't say anything, and I'm screaming and yelling. Why, as a good Samaritan, she didn't say, hey, it was that same day. She didn't say, hey, what are you looking for? She walked literally past me with my white dog standing next to me, and I had him on a leash at that time, because we were both out looking for a Penelope. She saw me walking and calling my dog. And that's how I knew who she was talking about when I called the Pound Buddy, because she described
a neighbor told you. A neighbor told you.
The neighbor and, I'm sorry.
A neighbor, I'm just telling you, a neighbor told you that a male took the dog from your yard.
The police did not write the report up right, because just as my witness stated that the police stated in the first thing that he saw Mela give the witness give the dog to a guy, My witness says she's never seen her give the dog to anybody.
Okay. I am not prepared to say that the defendant stole your dog.
Okay.
I'm prepared to say that you were a very bad caretaker of a 13-week-old puppy.
Okay.
And that you have to bear that burden. There is a slim possibility that the defendant may have been involved in stealing your puppy. I somehow doubt it. The only thing that I know for certain is that you let a 13-week-old puppy out unattended. Forget about the year-and-a-half-old puppy. I would never let my 2-year-old puppy out alone and unattended in an unfenced yard. So those are the consequences that you accept. Even if you have a fenced yard with a 13-week-old puppy, I don't know whether I would let a 13-week-old puppy out. They dig holes. And you also have to be afraid of somebody stealing them, because what you said is somebody stole your puppy, right?
I lost my dog, and I was honest about that when I made my police report. And this is why I did leave him out attended, because I work from home, and I only had a 15-minute break. I went to the bathroom and came back out. By the time I got back to my computer desk to get back on after my 15 break, it had only been 20 minutes after, so I was only 5 minutes late after I had already did all the searching and everything. That's why I don't know how come I didn't see.
I don't know either. All you know for sure is that you let a 13-week-old puppy out alone. Okay. It's like letting a 6-month-old baby who's just learning to crawl. Go out, let's keep our fingers crossed that you come back. It's not about you, it's about the dog. And I would think twice about breeding dogs, because if you're very busy with your other business, this is not a hobby. Breeding dogs is a skilled art form that people should be educated about. And this is about the third case that I've had involving this adorable breed of dog, French bulldogs, that everybody thinks now is sort of a sport to raise. It's not a sport.
And that's what I know.
Good. Your case is dismissed.
This court is adjourned.
I don't think that I did any wrong by letting my dogs go out to use the bathroom.
I don't steal dogs.
Honestly, these are like my children.
I'm happy with the decision she made.
I made flyers and everything. She saw me calling my dog.
The dogs are running loose.
I actually love animals. I love my dogs.
Why would I steal your dogs?
And I certainly just wouldn't leave her unattended like that for no reason and stuff like that.
Hope she finds her dog.
She just admitted in there that she picked up the dog.
That was true. It was in my hands, but I handed it off to the guy who was out there who claimed that that was his dog.
Just want my dog back. It wasn't even about the money.
I seen posters and everything.
I'm not just a breeder. I care about my dogs.
I don't have it, so.
In this court and in most civil cases, the burden of proof is more evidence than not. And I really believe that before you label someone as a thief, you have to be pretty secure, pretty confident that their story is not possible.
Yeah.
Because there was some evidence that she had possession of the dog for a period of time, but then she gave a perfectly plausible, to me, explanation.
When you asked for that additional proof, I thought we were going to see a social media post after the fact with the defendant with the dog, you know, something that indicated that she had possession of the dog post this point of the time in which it went missing.
You just don't let your dogs run loose.
Yeah.
I mean, they could get hit by a car.
Nothing good happens from letting them run loose.
Nothing good happens, nothing positive.
Lillian Rogers is suing her ex-boyfriend's parents, Jody and Robert Denniston, for insurance money after her property was destroyed in a fire.
Hello, Judge. Case 3054, Rogers versus Denniston.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Rogers, let me see if I understand what your point. You met the defendant's son and became involved with the defendant's son. In what year was that, and how old were you?
June of 2019, I had just turned 18.
And I assume that you either decided to or you had aged out of the residential foster care system, and you were invited to live in the defendant's home.
Yes, ma'am.
And you lived in the defendant's home from June 2019 until when?
Until October of 2021, when the house fire occurred.
And what were you doing between 2019 and 2021?
As in occupation?
What were you doing? Were you in school? Were you working? What were you doing?
I was doing full-time school, and then I had a couple of jobs here and there.
What full-time school?
I was in school to become a social worker for foster youth.
In what months were you in school and year?
August 2019, all the way up until now.
Okay. And who was paying for your school?
The state of California.
Are you almost finished with a degree?
Yes, ma'am.
What school?
I'm going to Stanislaus State in Turlock.
Is that where you were going to school when you were living with them?
I went to a junior college with them, and then halfway through living with them, I switched to Stanislaus State, which is 4-year.
Were you receiving housing subsidies from foster care or just tuition for school?
The last 3 months up until I turned 21, I was receiving house subsidy.
And how much were you receiving from the state as a housing subsidy?
I only got $1,000 3 times.
Did you use that housing subsidy to give any portion of that money to the defendants?
I used a portion of it. They had requested $150 a month.
Starting when?
Starting October 2020, they started requesting $100 a month in order to pay for PG&E, gas, electricity.
And did you pay it?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, this is the lawsuit. There was a fire in the house, and it is your claim that $6,000 worth of your property was destroyed. You had no renter's insurance.
Correct.
And it is your claim that the defendants used receipts that you had given them to put into insurance, and they were reimbursed by insurance for your claims, but never gave you any money.
Correct.
That's what the case is about. My first question is, how do you know they were reimbursed for your claims?
I had submitted any and all receipts for the insurance company. In September of 2022, I had broken up with their son in December of 2022. So a couple month time span, I knew that they were moving into their house about 2 weeks after the fact that I had broken up with their son. So after they had moved into their house, after everything was refurnished and rebuilt, that's when I knew that they had gotten paid out.
Well, I'm just asking you, do you have any information from the insurance company that part of the claim, such their bills that were in your name, that part of the claim was actually paid to the defendants?
I had a Google Doc form that the Dennisons had sent me a little bit ago, and it was just them stating that this is how much they think that I deserve from the fire. I believe deserve is the correct word.
Maybe I could take a look at that.
And then I also have all the receipts and everything that I had submitted to the Dennisons.
I may look at that too, but I would like to see the first document that you discussed.
There was actually 2 documents that they had sent me.
I'd like to take a look at them. What's this truck money?
That was on a separate case, Your Honor.
What do you mean it was on a separate case?
I had filed with small claims court 2 separate cases against the Dennisons, one against Mr. and Mrs. Dennison, one against their son, Bryson Dennison.
What's the truck money is my question.
I had bought in him a truck, and then we had totaled the vehicle, and he still had owed me money on it, but I allowed him to get a different truck with the reimbursement from the insurance.
What happened with that case of the $3,300?
It still hasn't got paid to me yet.
What?
It still has not got paid.
Have you gone to court with it?
No, not yet.
Are you scheduled to go to court?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
On the 29th of this month.
And that case is not against the Dennisons, that's against their son?
Yes, ma'am.
That's you?
Yeah.
Okay. This says this makes everything final and done with this payment. We're not talking about the truck. $2,803.17. That's what you said that her items were worth.
Correct.
Did you pay her that?
No, because she did not agree to that amount.
Just a second. But that's what you offered her. $2,803.17.
Correct.
Lillian Rogers claims her ex-boyfriend's parents, Jody and Robert Denniston, owe her money from an insurance claim after their home was destroyed in a fire.
What is this broken items, hole in the wall, being paid with washer and dryer that we didn't take out of the house? They were Rob's sisters and given to their son for use, value of at least, what is that?
That's regarding the second case, Your Honor. I was being
That has nothing to do. All I want to know is this whole document that you gave me has to do with a lot of other stuff.
Correct.
Yes.
I was the mediator between the 2 of them.
Okay, but the $2,800 was for the fire damage.
Correct.
For the receipt for the fire damage.
Correct.
And all of this other stuff has to do with the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well then, if you add $2,800 to the $3,300, the truck money, that's what you're suing for here.
No. No, ma'am. I ended up going ahead and printing out all the documents and all the receipts that I had produced to the Denistons regarding the fire contents money, and I had added everything up. And then I also had their spreadsheet that they had submitted into their insurance company that has my name as well as everybody else in the household's name on it.
Okay. Was any of the property that you lost reimbursed to you by the state of California?
No, ma'am.
Nothing?
No.
What was the date of the fire?
October
1st,
2022.
21.
21.
Well, in June, you ordered things online, and you had shipped to you a body oil moisturizer for $13. This happened in October. You think that they're going to reimburse you for that? It's not happening. I want you to get your act together. That's not happening.
So what we were told from the insurance adjusters was any and all receipts that we had, and I only had online receipts, unfortunately, due to the pandemic.
What?
I only had online receipts due to the pandemic.
What I'm telling you is...
So I was told to produce any and all receipts I had of everything that we had in the house, regardless if it was 2 toothpicks or...
Oh, well, that's not happening.
A mattress.
That's not happening. Not happening. There was a fire in the house, Miss Rogers.
Yeah.
The insurance company paid for the family to go to a hotel.
Yes,
Is that right? Did you contribute to that?
I paid my rent.
For how long?
I continued paying it until we left.
While you were in the hotel?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, she paid the $150.
How did you come up with the figure of $2,800?
It was in one of the insurance documents. It had listed in red on that form that she gave you, the depreciation of value. I had added a bunch of those items that she showed you on that first document that had Lily's name on it. It came to that amount minus the depreciation amount, and then that was the actual cash value is what they actually paid us.
May I see that in writing? That'll make my life a lot easier, and I don't have to go through
It's a huge document that I have on my email.
Okay. Did you share that document with her?
Did I share it? No.
Okay, I'd like to take a look at it. Where are you living now, Miss Rogers? Where are you living now?
I'm living technically in a barn right now, but it's a refurnished barn. And then to add clarity, I would like to mention that I said to add clarity, I would like to mention that as far as my knowledge is, the Denistons, they had replacement insurance, which means that the depreciation value didn't matter as long as I went and purchased the same item and then brought back receipts to the insurance company.
Well, that may be them, not you.
Oh, absolutely.
That may be them, not you. You're not an insured. You sound like a smart gal. You were living there. You were paying rent. There was no negligences that caused this fire, I would assume.
No, ma'am.
On October 29th, after the fire, you bought an iPhone Pro Max.
Yes.
For $1,200.
Yes. So from my understanding of a house fire, the only thing that burnt down was the garage. However, there's fire damage, there's fireman damage, and then
I want to know what happened to your phone.
Is smoke
You
damage.
had your phone.
Yes. So as far as the smoke damage, any electronicals and
No. What happened after the fire? On October 1st?
Yes.
You moved into a hotel?
Yes.
Did you use your phone between the time of the fire and October 21st? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
Okay. Then you had no right to buy another phone for $1,200.
Yes, ma'am. So according to the insurance agency, as well as the firemen and the police department, anything electronical within the house, the stove, phones, computers, anything else.
Not happening for you.
Okay.
Not happening for you.
Okay.
I don't have to see it. I just made up the difference. Yeah, I've just made up the
I also have a list of items.
I went through enough of this to see where we're at.
And she did receive money from the state. My daughter, who's here in court, was a witness to her receiving gift cards from the state, from social services, to replace her items that were lost in the fire, such as clothing.
Did you receive any gift cards from the state?
No, ma'am.
I assume you were friends while she was living there?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me your first name.
Kaylee.
Tell me about what you know about receiving gift cards from the state.
So the social worker came over to the house and was giving her a gift card to It was either like Kohl's or JCPenney's, one of the sorts, which Lily then...
Just a second. Did you see the amount of those gift cards?
I did not see the amount, no, ma'am.
Easy. What was the amount of the gift card?
I did not receive any gift
Was a
cards.
social worker at your house?
The only time she's ever visited the house, which was in, I believe, August of 2021. That's the only time she's ever been to the house.
When we were living in the Airbnb, the social worker did come after the fire had occurred. She came over and then...
Do you remember what the name of the social worker was?
I do not.
Sit down. Stand up. I get...
Lillian Rogers has accused her ex-boyfriend's parents, Jody and Robert Deniston, of owing her money from an insurance claim. Jody and Robert say they tried to pay Lillian, but she is being greedy.
Tell me your first name, please.
Bryson.
Bryson, did you, while you were still living with Miss Rogers in the hotel or thereafter, after the fire, did you discuss with her any subsidy that she received as a result of the fire from the state?
No.
When for the first time did you ever hear about these gift cards?
It was when the lawsuit was filed. She never told me about any of that.
She never did?
No.
And neither did your sister?
No.
Good, very good. Sit down. Thank you. Okay, just show me, would you, for a moment, what you're referring to with regard to the depreciation value of the items.
The depreciation value?
Yeah,
Oh, I
and how you got to the $2,800, which I think is probably reasonable.
It's on that big file that's downloading.
If I may, Your Honor. So everything that I had in receipts right there is just everything that I had purchased online, not talking about anything that I've ever purchased from within the home for the Denistons, for myself, anything in store. Me and Kaylee Denison, we were quote unquote shopping buddies, and we'd go shopping every single week.
I don't care. All I'm telling you is, I looked at one major charge. There were charges for $13 for hand moisturizer and toothpaste that go away.
Yes.
You know, you use them up, but you had no reason to go to Apple to buy a new phone for $1,200 in a service plan. The fact that an insurance company person indicated to you that if there was a problem and if there was smoke, you can replace electronics, doesn't mean they're going to pay for it. And until you can produce evidence for me, and there's nothing here, that you put in claims for $6,000 and they got $6,000, which you cannot establish in what you gave me. Do you understand? I get a little bit leery when bills are, bills are padded, especially when these people took you into their home, you lived there 2.5 years, you paid a nominal rent, you bought an awful lot of stuff, which means that you spent your housing, the $3,000 that you were supposed to spend in, and I don't know what other monies you were getting from the state, because you had to get some money to live.
No, ma'am. I had aged out of foster care, and I was not eligible for any benefits outside of foster care besides the last 3 months of me turning 21. And by that point, I had to rebuy all of the items I've ever had, because everything I've ever owned was in that house.
I know the feeling. I was just saying, I know the feeling. We lost everything in our home, too.
So that's where that $3,000 went to.
It's still downloading. What document I do have is her list, and I itemized what was hers, what was a gift, and what was not. And that's what has the totals on the bottom. No, I don't have that. It was like 2,000 pages long.
Could you explain to me, I'm just curious, why are there 4 items here for iPhones?
That's what she's claiming, that she had bought all those phones. That's a list that she had given me of items that she had receipts for.
There were 1, 2, 3, 4 phones
No,
on
ma'am.
this.
I only had turned in the receipts for Bryson Denison and I's phone. However, on our account, there was the other 2 phones within the home. It was still within the home.
Just a second.
So they got ruined.
Just a second. Are these items that you listed?
Those are the items with the receipts I helped produce to the Denisons, correct?
So these are items that you said you should be reimbursed for?
Not me personally, because I didn't buy 2 of the phones.
Which 2 did you buy?
I only bought the first 2.
The 2 expensive ones for $2,500?
Yes.
Goodbye. $2,800, which is what they offered you. That's what you're getting. Goodbye. We're done here.
This court is adjourned.
I'm glad that I was awarded something. It is unfortunate because I did lose everything that I did have in the fire, but it's okay because we can always rebuild and renew and everything else in between.
I still felt like we didn't owe her anything because she didn't have a renter's policy. She wasn't on our homeowners, but I agree.
I was alone in the house with their son, and it was a pretty scary experience. Thank goodness that a couple of us were home, so not everything in the whole house was tarnished. They were able to keep a couple of their personal items, so that was really nice.
I'm a little hurt. I opened up my heart, my home, my family are just good nature, and to have this happen, it's heartbreaking.
They absolutely did help me out, and I do appreciate them for everything. Unfortunately, there's a backstory to everything, of course.
I'll still continue to help people. It's our good nature, it's what we do as human beings.
But there's her side, his side, his side, and the truth. And what's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong, and not giving me my portion is wrong.
She's just a greedy little brat. Entitled.
At the end of the day, if they're keeping my money, isn't they're trying to be greedy?
It seemed like the defendants were really cared for the plaintiff, allowed her to move into the house, had a good relationship, didn't even charge her any rent until they decided that they had adult children that should start contributing to the home, and they included her in with their own children in the responsibilities to pay a nominal amount of rent. So it's always tough in situations like that when we see plaintiffs such as this one suing people who you and I look at as their saviors. They gave you a warm place to sleep, they fed you, you had a roof over your head, all of these things that they lost everything too in the fire. I don't think that they were unreasonable. She went with them to the Airbnbs and the hotels afterwards. They didn't leave her out on the street. So I couldn't imagine suing somebody after all of that unfolded.
No, it's probably had to do with a very bad breakup of the relationship that they had with the son. But I think the bottom line lesson is if you have things that are valuable and if you are a renter, and even though she was paying a nominal amount of money, it's still rent.
Sure.
That renter's insurance, especially if you have very little, is very inexpensive. Mm-hmm. And you should have it.
Yeah.
And young people don't think about that.
Until it's too late, usually.
Right. You've rented once.
Once. And even I was ignorant to the fact that you should have renter's insurance. And I was lucky that nothing like this happened. But having now seen the different scenarios that can unfold, definitely in the future, I'll get renter's insurance anywhere I rent.
Smart.
Yeah.
Blonsey O'Barron is suing his ex-girlfriend, Sharila Williams, for stolen property and money taken from his bank accounts.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 3056, O'Barron versus Williams.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. O'Barron, you and the defendant were a couple for a while.
Yes.
From when to when?
2021 to 2023.
When in 2023?
October.
Well, we're not there yet. October of 2023 comes up in a few months.
That was 2022, I meant.
Okay, so from 2021 to October
2022.
Of 2022.
Yes, my bad.
And you lived together. According to what I've read, you took an apartment and the lease was in both your names?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. And in what month and year was that lease signed?
In June.
June of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. You are in a wheelchair as a result of being shot.
Right.
When were you shot?
June 23rd.
Of what year?
2022.
Under what circumstances?
It was an altercation with my mother, my kids, and our boyfriend.
Okay, so with somebody that you knew?
Yes.
And was that person arrested?
No.
Did you know who it was?
Yes, I know who it was.
Is there any reason why that person wasn't arrested who shot you?
I had a gun myself, and then the gun happened to go off. I didn't have an altercation with the person, so it was with somebody else. He was just there, and then he started shooting.
When you moved into the apartment with the defendant, you had not been shot?
No.
So when you were shot, you were hospitalized for a while?
Yes, I was
How long?
in the hospital for about 3-4 months.
I'm going to come to you with some dates.
Yes, Your Honor.
You moved into this apartment together in October of 2022?
So we moved in June of 2022.
And he was shot that same month?
Yes, ma'am.
And he spent several months in the hospital?
He spent like 3 months in the hospital, yes, Your Honor.
Your complaint against the defendant is that she used some money because you subsequently became incarcerated.
She didn't use it. She stole it.
She stole, you were living together.
Yes.
I assume sharing expenses.
Right.
And you had a bank account.
Yes.
You were incarcerated.
Yes.
Which means that whatever income you had went into that bank.
Yes, ma'am.
And the two of you, when you were in the apartment, shared expenses, including rent. How did you expect her to pay rent with you incarcerated if she didn't use your money that was going into your bank account, which she had control over?
The rent was already paid for 3 months.
You were incarcerated on what day?
I was in the hospital when the rent was already paid.
Well, you were in the hospital, but then you went to jail.
I went to jail.
Okay, you went to jail from when to when?
October till April.
The lease wasn't up until May. How was she supposed to pay rent?
That's what I'm saying. I paid.
Are you telling me in October you paid October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May?
I paid for 3 months.
Which 3 months?
From October, maybe till December.
Let's say it's true. I assume you can prove to me that you paid the rent for those couple of months. What happened to December, January, February, March, and April? What about those 5 months?
We actually didn't have an agreement for me to pay anything, so
you were both on the lease. You were both fully responsible for the rent.
Right.
And you were paying something towards the rent.
Right.
Well, I'm asking you, how do you expect her to pay the rent? What was the total rent?
The rent was $750 a month, Your Honor.
And prior to going to jail, how much did you contribute towards the rent? Is not an answer.
I wasn't working at the time because my situation from October, I was being incarcerated and I applied for disability and then I was waiting to get approved while I was.
Well, you got disability. That's what you're complaining about, that you took money out of your account. The money that came out of your account to pay some of these bills was from disability.
I wish you would pay some bills with it. That would make me feel a lot better. But she never paid no bills. She just used the money for unnecessary stuff. So
how do you know that?
Because I have the proof. If she would pay the bills with the money, when I got home, when I get out, I will probably have somewhere to go. When I left the hospital, I had a GoFundMe. I had a little money. I was helping paying bills.
You did a GoFundMe?
Yes, from the hospital, from the months I was in the hospital, so to help me with my medical needs and stuff.
How much did you collect from a GoFundMe page?
2,800 something.
Do you have an outstanding medical bill?
No, I don't. I actually had Medicaid then at the time.
So that you had no hospital bill. You walked out of the hospital, didn't pay anything.
No, I applied while I was in the hospital.
It doesn't matter. You didn't pay anything, correct?
No.
So what did you do with the $2,800 you got from? Shh.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What did you do with the $2,800 that you got from the GoFundMe page? I'm just curious.
I actually bought a lot of stuff for me to use. When I got out, I needed a lot of stuff.
Okay, you say she took money. Did you take any money out of his account?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
How much did you take out?
I roughly spent maybe $3,000 on bills.
Okay, and what did you spend the $3,000 on?
There was rent, there was food, there were utilities, my car note.
Well, why is he responsible for your car note? Why is he responsible for your food?
Blondie agreed to take care of me because I was not working. I stopped working when he had his incident, his shooting incident. I stopped working to take care of him, to be there for him. And so I had no income coming in. Blondie stated to me that once he received his disability, he was going to take care of me because he had been priorly living with me and not paying any bills.
Is that right, sir?
I was.
That's a simple answer. She said something to me. It sort of makes sense. And all I'm asking you is the statements that she just made to me, are they accurate?
Aaron claims his ex-girlfriend, Sharila Williams, stole his property and wrongfully withdrew money from his bank accounts. Sharila is countersuing for property damage.
The statements that she just made to me, are they accurate?
Somewhat.
What's not accurate? Were you living with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you paying bills when you were living with her? Rent, food, utilities?
Yes.
Were you paying for that?
I actually paid for food. Yeah.
Okay, so you paid for nothing. And then prior to your becoming incapacitated, Was the defendant working?
She actually was working and then she stopped working.
She was working. What was she doing? You were living together, so you know what she was doing. What was she doing?
She wasn't really taking care of me.
I didn't ask about taking care of you.
She wasn't doing nothing.
I asked, was she working prior to your becoming incapacitated?
Yes.
What kind of work was she doing?
Nursing.
She was a nurse.
Yeah.
Are you still nursing?
Your Honor, I'm a medical office receptionist, so I'm not a nurse, Your Honor.
Should have gotten to know you a little bit better. Okay, and on what date did you leave that job?
I stopped working in July.
You were shot in June.
June, yes.
And then you were in the hospital for a while.
Yes.
And prior to being shot, you were not in a wheelchair.
No.
When you came home, was the defendant at home?
Sometimes.
What do you mean sometimes? She was on the lease.
After a couple months from being there, she didn't want to be at the house. She was getting...
Was she with you in July?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she with you in August?
Yes.
Okay. What credit card charges do you believe exist that the defendant used your credit card without your permission?
Oh, right here.
This is a checking account statement, sir.
It's the checking account. It wasn't a credit card.
So she never used your credit card without permission?
No, it wasn't in a credit card.
Okay.
It was just checking account.
In January, February, and March of 2023, you were incarcerated.
Yes.
What were you incarcerated for?
It was a warrant that I have.
Your Honor, it was a warrant from a violent situation that he incurred with his witness.
Tell me about it.
They had a disturbance at her location, and they arrested him from the house that we shared due to a warrant from his witness.
Okay, and was that because you called the police because you were having an altercation?
I called the police because we were having an altercation, but they arrested him due to an incident between him and his child's mother.
Okay, and when did that occur?
That occurred October 28th.
Now, what items do you say that she took from you without permission?
All my personal belongings, like clothes, shoes, everything.
When
I left with nothing at all, like when I got out.
When you got out of jail?
Yes.
Okay. When you got out of jail, what was the date that you were released from jail?
April 14th.
And where did you go?
I actually slept in the car that night because...
Where did you go the next day?
The next day, my kid's mother tried to help me find a hotel and pay for it.
And what happened to the apartment that you had been sharing with the defendant?
The week before I got out, me and the defendant, we was actually talking. When I got out, she was gonna release everything to me so we can move on. But
you could move on?
But we both can move on. So the week before I got out, she started answering the phone from the jail. And then she had a plan to move out, but when she moved...
Well, the lease was up the next month.
I don't think the lease was off yet.
Yeah, the lease was going to be up the next month. It was a year lease.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
Well, I'm telling you, it was a year lease. It was going to be up the next month.
Okay, well, then again, she didn't want me to be there anymore.
Well, you had an altercation with her, did you not?
After my incident, she started the
Just a second, you had an altercation with her?
We had, yes.
You had the altercation in October.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And as a result of that altercation, another warrant dropped on you from another incident.
Yes.
So I can imagine that she didn't want to be with you anymore because she had called the police on you as a result of the October incident.
No, that wasn't the reason.
Why? What was the reason?
The reason was because I wasn't good enough at the point because of my situation. I was in a wheelchair. She didn't want nothing to do with me at that point anymore.
Okay.
The only reason she actually led me on when the doctor told me I couldn't walk anymore. I told her, you don't have to be there if you don't want to. And even my mom told her that when she seen her outside the hospital. But she kind of feels some type of way about that. And then when I told her after that, she told me, well, your mom tell me the same thing, but I choose to be here because, you know, I love you, this and that. So she leave me on, tell me, I'm going to help you. You can come back home with this and that. And then a couple months after the low money I got from the GoFundMe was over, everything I said was an argument, and we started getting into altercation every other day. Because after the 2 months that I didn't have nothing to basically give her anymore, and being in my situation, it's like she was using that to, you know, take advantage of everything.
What did she take?
She took my clothes, everything that I own. She took everything that I owned.
Your Honor, I took some of his belongings to an address that he resides at also. I dropped some belongings off over there in Independence, Missouri.
And do you know who lives there?
Yes, his brothers live there.
And what did you bring over there?
I dropped off a couple Tupperware of clothes, Your Honor. I didn't want to bring anything personally to him because I just kind of feared for my life. And so I dropped some belongings off prior to him getting out. And then once he was released out, I kind of took some time to give him some of his rest of his belongings just because I was scared.
How did you give him those belongings
I
after
personally
he got
handed
out?
them to him.
Where?
His address in Independence.
Where his brother also lives?
Yes.
You remember that?
No, I have no idea what she's talking about, Your Honor.
What address is on your driver's license?
Her address, actually.
Okay. Did you call anyone before you went over there with these bags of clothing?
I talked to Blondie and I told him I was going to drop his stuff off. He gave me an address to drop the stuff off.
Can I see that, please? Do you remember that, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, don't say anything.
Yep.
And she's going to show me.
I actually gave her an address, but nothing ever. Never.
Just a second. So now you're remembering that you gave her.
Yes,
and
I did.
I'd like to see what she has, please. It doesn't say anything. I will give you your belongings. We can move on, but
it's at the top where I'm asking him for the address.
Address or what?
And he's not sending it, but he did send me an address. I just don't have that with me, Your Honor.
Okay, but I want to tell you something, sir. In this text exchange, she says address or what? And you answer her, enjoy my money while it lasts. You remember that? And then when you got out...
Blondie O'Barron has accused his ex-girlfriend, Sharila Williams, of stealing property and taking money without his permission. Sharila is countersuing Blondie for property damage.
I'm now addressing your counterclaim. I want you to tell me what happened on October 28th.
So what happened was I came home to him tearing up different items around the house. He tore up a wardrobe of mine. There were some TV damages done. As I came in the house, we were arguing. We had been arguing.
What were you arguing about?
I no longer wanted to be with him just for the past things that I've experienced with him. I was just done and over the drama, the mental abuse, the physical abuse, the verbal abuse. My kids are witnesses to this. I was just done, Your Honor. I wanted to move on. So I called the police and then they informed me that they were arresting him on another charge for whatever he had going on with his children's mother.
Now you can stand up. Okay. Tell me your last name.
Moore.
Ms. Moore.
Yes.
You and the plaintiff have a child together?
Yes, ma'am.
One child?
Yes, ma'am.
Plaintiff was arrested for an altercation that he had with you.
Right.
When did that happen?
Huh? A couple weeks before he was shot. He had some mail come into my house, and I didn't realize that he had mail delivered. And so he came to my residence, and he was looking for the mail, and I didn't give it to him. And so I asked him to leave a couple of times. He didn't leave. And so then I called the police. And so that's when he had a warrant out for his arrest for basically like disturbance of peace.
Oh, no. That doesn't make sense to me.
He tried to attack her with a crowbar.
Just a second. That doesn't make sense. I've been in this business for much too long, folks, I want my mail and I didn't give it to you. So
That
he
is
went to
what
jail
happened,
for 6
though.
months. That didn't happen, madam.
No,
Ms. Moore.
it was it kind of got put under domestic because he did become like violent. He wanted.
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, he wanted
Don't
his
give me this mail business.
He wanted his mail, so he had a crowbar basically approaching my vehicle. And so my nephew went out there and tried to stop it. And so they kind of had a back and forth shoving a thing.
Just a second. So now it's getting more serious.
Yeah.
Were you, sir, arrested with regard to that domestic incident?
Yes.
Was there a trial on that case?
Yes.
What happened with that case?
They dropped it and just give me probation.
No, they didn't drop it.
Yes,
If they
they
gave you
the charges.
Just a second. Listen to me carefully. The justice system does not put people on probation unless there is a conviction for something.
Right.
Now, they may have reduced the charges. Did you have a trial or did you plead guilty?
Plead guilty.
That's a different story. You pled guilty to what charge?
Assault.
On whom?
Her nephew.
Her nephew, not her.
No.
Sit down. Okay. Sit down. I can rely on nothing that you tell me. So you were convicted of assault on her nephew. You were placed on probation.
I was already on probation for something else.
What were you on probation for something else?
Probation violation.
Well, you don't go to jail for probation violation unless there's another underlying crime. What was the underlying crime that
Driving.
Driving?
Yes.
No, driving is not a crime, sir. You were never on probation for driving.
Yes, I was.
Well, not in this country.
Okay.
Not in this country. You may be on probation if you have an aggravated DUI. You may be on probation because
suspended license, ma'am.
Well, because you had no license.
Yes.
Even driving on a suspended license, you don't go to jail unless you had something more serious. Before that,
no, Your Honor.
You seem to have an awful lot of legal problems, sir.
I have.
You have an awful lot of legal problems. You were living with this lady. She took out money. She paid bills. Forget it. You used your GoFundMe page. I don't know what for. Here's a phone. I listened to your counterclaim. Your counterclaim didn't say much. It said he destroyed some things in your house.
Yes, Your Honor. Blondie tore up some TVs that were in the house. I have pictures of.
That was in October.
October.
Almost a year ago.
Yes, Your Honor.
Almost a year ago. We're almost a year later. If he destroyed some of these items, where have you been about filing a case against him?
So I realized that the police department, they put out a warrant for the damages that occurred October 28th to an iPhone of mine.
Do you have
that police report?
I'd
yes,
like to
Your
see the
Honor.
police report. You cause any damage to things in her residence?
Actually, what happened...
Just a second to see the yes or no.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, the only thing that was reported damaged was an iPhone.
Yes, Your Honor.
Period. And the police reported that it was broken front and back. Nothing else. No TVs, no nothing. That's what the police reported. They spoke to you and that's what you said was damaged. Did you damage her iPhone?
No, ma'am.
How did it get damaged?
What happened was the altercation that happened between me and her. She started. I was in the kitchen, and then she was in the bedroom. And then next thing I know, I was opening the fridge. I'm sitting there, and then I got a punch that come behind my head, and then she take off running and went outside, and then called the police.
What did you use to call the police? Is not an answer. What did you use to call the police?
My cell phone, Your Honor.
Yeah. Your counterclaim is dismissed. So is your claim, sir. I suggest you stay far away from each other, and I'm going to tell you one thing. If he has violent propensities, you think twice. Be smart. Goodbye. Both of you. Goodbye.
This court is adjourned.
Blondie freeloaded off of me for a year and a half.
I don't think it was fair enough. I didn't really get my point across.
The final straw is my kids. My kids had endured enough, and it was just time for a change for us.
Forgive her. I guess she needed the money more than I do. I'm not really mad about it. It's okay.
I'm okay with the judge's decision today. I just gonna get my protection order and move on.
You know what was most distressing to me about that case, Sarah? The plaintiff's girlfriend, the mother of his son, was a well-spoken, articulate, together woman with whom he's currently living, despite the fact that he was convicted of a serious assault. He was originally charged with aggravated assault on her nephew. Then you have the defendant, another articulate, seemingly together person who had a responsible job before him. These two women accepting a place where they know they're going to live in fear of somebody that has violent propensities. Yeah. They both know it.
At least with the defendant, after they had that altercation in which she called the police, she left. She said, her testimony today was, that was it for me. But you can't say the same thing for the mother of his child, so it's just unfortunate that she'll have to live with that fear.
I don't know how long.
We'll see.
School teacher Rachel Haida is suing Virginia Allen for car damage and emotional distress after Virginia's son hit her car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Haida versus Allen.
Thank you. Ms. Haida, your Case is about damage that was done to your car when Miss Allen's son, which would be this young man over here, hit it. You were in the car, he was on foot at an intersection. The defendant's argument is that you were driving carelessly and you're just lucky that she's not suing you. Okay. Your case has a sort of interesting twist, which I will find out about, because Miss Allen's son, whose name is?
Keegan.
Keegan was playing some, it's hard for me to imagine, some stupid, idiotic teenage game that other people on the internet, on something, TikTok, that it's a sort of a game he was playing. You may be able to see me better if you trim that, so it's not below your eyes. I tell that to my grandchildren, just a little, so I could see, I could see your eyes. And your mother would love it, just a little bit. Yeah, yes. Perfect. See, he's not intimidated, Miss Allen. I see he's not intimidated by anything. Yeah. I can fix that.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, not to worry. Okay, so tell me when this incident occurred.
It actually occurred on April 27th.
What time of day?
Approximately 3:45 p.m.
And you were picking your kids up from school?
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 of my own, but I'm a carpool mom that takes turns with 2 other moms. So I had a total of 5 children in the car that day.
Tell me what happened.
So I had just picked them up, and I was in the right-hand lane, and the light was red. So, of course, I was idle, waiting for the light to turn green. And I'm definitely one of those people who always hesitate at a green light because...
Don't give me a whole story, yes. Just tell me what happened.
Yeah, so then I started to progress through the green light, and then, instantly, seconds after I progressed, we were colliding.
Okay. You were colliding with Keegan. Tell me where his body was on your car.
He was running towards, my driver's side window, my door, and I only saw him as we were colliding, going towards my door, my driver's side door.
Okay. Do you have photographs of where his body and your car collided? I would like to see the damage to the car.
Oh, okay, yeah. I do have that.
While she's looking for that, Miss Allen, you weren't with your son that day.
I was not.
He was coming home from school.
Correct.
And he walks home?
Yes.
I have actually a quick little video of the whole thing. You click on that one right there. Should I click on it or should I wait for you? Yeah, because I don't want it to play.
Miss Allen, have you seen photographs of the car?
I have not.
Okay. So it was on the side?
Yes.
Is that the rear passenger side?
Rear driver's side.
Rear driver's side, right over the wheel?
Yes. I believe even my collision report gives the X's on the drawing.
No, I'm just looking at it. Kevin, I would like you to show Miss Allen just so that she sees the same photograph that I'm looking at. And Keegan, you could get up and look at that photograph with your mother so that you've had an opportunity to see it as well. So now you can return that to her. Keegan did not collide with her so that the damage to her car was in the front. He collided on the side of her car. So, I'm not really good at physics, but if he made contact with the car on her side, unless the car was being driven sideways, he hit her. I'm just telling you that, right? I don't know the circumstances around it, but his body hit her car, not her car hitting his body.
If I may.
Well, you have no idea because you weren't there.
Correct.
Right. And what happened after he hit the car? That's pretty serious damage, which means that the person or object that hit your car was going pretty fast. Mm-hmm. Because it wouldn't make any difference how fast your car was going. The force of the person hitting your car caused that kind of damage. Got it so far, Keegan?
Yeah.
Yes!
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Rachel Haida claims Virginia Allen's son, Keegan, ran into the street and hit her car, causing damage and emotional distress.
Okay, what happened next?
I screamed, pulled over to the side, within nanoseconds, ran out to go check on him. And luckily, a nurse had ran out kind of simultaneously as me, and we both just kind of like started examining. I let her touch him, but I was there examining him with my eyes and asking him questions. And I kind of let her take control because you could see that she was a nurse. She had a, tools, nurse tools around her neck, and I kind of just let her do her routine. And the police had came in instantly. Our neighborhood is very good about that. Police are very nearby. And as soon as the police arrived, I ran straight to them so I can explain what happened and give information.
And what happened with Keegan?
So from what I could see, the nurse had eventually walked him over to the sidewalk. And while I was giving the police my report, ambulance showed up to take him away.
Did they take, did EMS take him away?
That could partly be because I am a teacher, so I'm CPR certified, so I know one of the big things you do is you tell someone, go call 911. So I did turn to a bystander and say, call 911. So the bystander went to call 911. So I think that's one of the reasons why the ambulance came.
Were you called to the hospital, Miss Allen?
I was.
And did you go?
I did.
What time did you get there?
I arrived about 5 o'clock, shortly after 5.
Did you have a conversation with your son?
I did.
First of all, how is he feeling?
He is confused. He didn't remember a lot about what happened. He said last thing he remembered, he was at school, and next thing he was in an ambulance.
That's what he said? He didn't remember anything else?
He did not remember very much.
Does he remember now?
He does.
Oh, good. Well, I could understand him being a little confused maybe then, but I'm glad he sort of remembers now.
Yes.
Okay, it's about 3:25. You're just getting out of school, Keegan.
Yes.
You walking home alone?
No, I was walking with some friends, and when I got to the crosswalk, what I remember, the red hand was still flashing. And my uncle's visiting from New Mexico, so,
I don't want to hear a whole story.
Okay.
I don't want to hear a whole story about why you were anxious to get home.
I said goodbye to my friends, started running, thought I could make it, didn't make it. And when I got...
So you were running across the street?
Yes.
And you were running across the street, according to you, because you saw the light was flashing, that it was going to turn red.
Yes.
And you thought you could make it.
Yes.
Your Honor.
But shh, just a second. Yeah. You thought you could make. Can we please go to that map? Okay, do you see where that map is?
Yes.
Is your car the red car or the blue car?
Blue car.
Okay. And the picture of the man, Keegan, that would be you?
Yes.
So when you got to the sidewalk, according to you, the light that you could see on the other side of these 4 lanes was flashing.
Yes.
And you started running across the street.
Yes.
When you were standing there, you said goodbye to your friends. I want you to think about this very, very carefully. When you looked at the light, was the light flashing?
From what I remember, yes.
What do you mean from what you remember?
I don't remember it very well.
Okay, so you don't know whether the light was flashing or whether your light turned red.
Yes.
So you don't remember. So it's possible that the light was red when you ran across the street.
Yes.
That's better. Now we're getting better. Okay. Now, I've read the complaint and the answer, and I'm so happy that you weren't injured when you did this reckless thing. So if you don't remember, I have to rely on the plaintiff. The plaintiff remembers she had a green light, and you did not. So if you have no firm memory, which you just indicated to me, so far you're in the wrong. You understand that?
Yes. I did do something really stupid.
What?
I did do something really dumb.
Oh, perfect.
I do know that, and I realize that.
Okay. Well, if you did do something wrong, and your parents are responsible for your negligent acts that caused damage to her car, do you acknowledge that you owe her deductible that she had to pay to have her car fixed?
Yes, and we did offer to fix the damages and pay for the damages. It's more the emotional distress that I have an issue with.
Unfortunately, I fixed the car after they had reached out to me. I had already had the car fixed. It had been like 3 to 4 weeks when they contacted me after the accident.
Did you contact them?
I did not.
How did you get her
Well, because we found out she's suing us. So then we reached out to say, may we fix the damages to your car?
Okay.
Yes.
And I assume, Miss Allen, you sound like a reasonably intelligent woman, that if one of my children were hit by a car and taken to the hospital, I might decide that this driver was reckless, if it was reckless, and sue them. You decided not to do that for a variety of reasons.
Correct.
So I'm glad that you agreed to fix the damage. But there's something in this complaint that I would like to pursue for a second. Keegan,
Yes.
after this incident, did you post anything on the internet about the incident?
A few weeks later, I did post a picture of myself in the hospital, yes.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
You have anything that he posted on the internet?
Within 24 hours, I received a video of him recording himself saying, and I quote, "I made that car my bitch."
May I see that?
That is this. And again, this is within 24 hours.
My face looking pretty.
You guys saw the coyote. I'm on the big street.
Feeling pretty good though. Feeling like,
Right here.
yo, I made that car my bitch. I pretty much took that car like a champ.
You aware?
Has accused Virginia Allen's son, Keegan, of running into the streets and colliding with her car.
Now, Keegan, I would like you to tell me what that means. Shh, I would like you to tell me what it means. I really don't know.
I guess I probably meant that.
No. I don't want you to guess anything. You know exactly what that means in your head. So don't give me a guess. What does it mean?
I was pretty okay for being hit by a car.
That's what it means. I made that car my bitch means I'm pretty okay? Really? Is that what you meant? Or did you mean you took that car?
Well, you see the minimal damage I have from getting hit by a car.
That's not my question to you, Keegan. I mean, you know, I've not heard that expression, particularly that expression before with regard to a car. But I don't think that that means I collided with a car and look, I only had minimum damage. What does it mean?
That I took it well.
Not you. It says I made that car my bitch.
Yes.
What does that mean? I really did this okay. I turned out okay. I wasn't that injured. That phrase has a particular meaning, and I would really like to know what it means. Not what you would like to say it means, but what you meant when you posted it.
I do not understand the question, Your Honor.
Okay. In my mind, that statement means I took the car, that this was some sort of sport.
No.
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 You were just rushing home to see your uncle.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He's a family friend. I've known him all my life.
You aware of a game, sort of, on TikTok where kids try to beat a traffic light?
No,
You aware of that? Not?
No.
Never seen it?
No.
Okay. Is this the video of the accident?
Yes.
I'd like to take a look. Just a second. Have you ever seen that, Miss Allen?
I have not.
To be honest, Your Honor, I have never seen it either. I have not been able to get myself to watch it.
Oh, so we're all seeing it for the first time. How interesting. Okay, let's go.
This is a good song. Are you sure you're
There he is.
What? Hit a kid.
Clearly, all the other cars were going, so she wasn't even the first car in line. All the other cars went. Who is this?
That's my father. Colin.
Would you like to move over so you can see it again?
I was able to see it.
Okay, so you understand what happened. All the other cars going. We're going to play it one more time. One more time. And I want you to see where your son starts to cross the street when the traffic is moving. Light changes, cars start to move.
I can't see. Oh, yeah.
Well, then move over, sir.
Well, just the light.
Move
the
over.
light's just right in between.
I don't need any communication. Just move over and look at it. The light's green. Cars are moving. The plaintiff's car has the dash cam on it. Your son is running across the street. Green light. She wasn't even the first car. 2 cars went before her. Now you see that, sir?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so you had a deductible. How much?
$1,000 deductible.
And how long did it take for your car to be fixed?
I want to say it was like 2 weeks and 2 days, like right over 2 weeks.
What did you do for a car for those 2 weeks?
I was able to borrow my father's car for on and off, yeah.
Great, so you had your father's car. Very good. You're a very lucky kid. You're a very, very lucky kid.
I know.
They say cat has 9 lives. People aren't that lucky. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think she was very fair. I'm glad she was able to hear from both sides.
I think the judge's decision is fair. I feel like the game is hearsay, but my son clearly was in the wrong.
So I'm a teacher, and hitting a child is one of my worst fears of all time, and it happened, and it's been pretty traumatic for me, to be honest.
It was very frightening. I got lots of new white hair and wrinkles, and it's obviously very distressing.
Severe anxiety, driving down that street, consistently fearful of hitting children. Like anywhere I go, just constant fear.
To hear that your kid has been hit by a car.
Police officers are the ones that informed me that he did it on purpose.
Disappointment.
So they knew from the very beginning.
And my son.
Kind of hoping that this would be like a good lesson for him, that he would finally learn to make better choice.
I hope he learns, and obviously still needs to.
So I was hoping that this is the thing that's gonna turn him over. And when I saw that video, I was like, or not.
That's one lucky kid and one lucky family.
Oh,
What a fool. I'm not sure he gave me an adequate explanation of what he meant when he posted that video. You know, I have my own thoughts about that. But he is one lucky kid because he went into that car with some force.
Yeah. No, I've seen you, leave the curb at a blinking hand, a short distance. But there were cars that were going already. It was very clearly a Frogger type situation trying to weave traffic.
What did you call that?
Frogger. Like it's an old video game where you jump through traffic and try not to get hit by cars. So when I saw that video, that's exactly what I thought of.
Yeah, well, I learned something. Frogger.
Bailiff Cassandra Britt is standing in for Bailiff Kevin Roscoe, and Law Clerk Alexi Mincer is sitting in for Law Clerk Sarah Rose. Isaiah Kamchan and Brandon Uloa are suing their former supplier, Manuel Garcia, for the cost of a T-shirt order.
Order in the court. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 3072, Kamchan Ulola versus Garcia.
Thank you. Who is Mr. Kamchan? You were starting up a business, T-shirt business.
Correct.
The defendant was also in business. He makes shirts. I assume you were having them made to sell them either online or at events.
Correct.
You don't have a store, is that right?
Online store.
Online. What's the name of your company?
Risen Athletics.
Reason?
Risen.
Risen. Spell it.
RIZIN space athletics.
And where are they incorporated?
Ceres, California.
In the state of California?
In the state of California.
And it's a corporation. You have a license. You've incorporated it.
Correct.
Here.
There's a website, about 9 items of clothing.
May I see it, please? Sure. Make it go. Could you go back to, okay, I just want to see where they order them from. Great. And what's the name of your company, sir?
MFP Studios.
MFP Studios.
Correct.
Where are you located?
Los Angeles.
How long have you been in business, Mr. Kamchan?
About a year and a half.
Did you make any money the first year you were in business?
Yes.
How much?
Approximately 10,000, a little over.
Nice. In that first year, did you get any merchandise from Mr. Garcia?
We did.
So you made some money from the merchandise?
Not from his clothing, actually.
Not from his. What other company do you deal with?
We did wholesaling through Champion, the website.
Champion is a wholesaler? I thought they were a retailer.
So they have a website where you can wholesale and buy a bunch of garments that they allow you to reprint on and sell. So that's what we did originally.
I found an Instagram page for MFP Studios. The website is coming soon.
I have the website currently closed right now.
Currently closed.
Yeah.
You what?
Yeah, our website opens and closes like periodically. So right now it's actually closed. But if you would like, I can go and open it for you guys so you guys can take a look at it.
I want to know why it closes, Mr. Garcia. What does that mean?
So usually the way that my company works is that we do custom manufacturing for specific brands, so it's very customized, but at times I do produce blanks on my own where I'll put on my website. Currently we don't have any, so my website is closed until we produce them and then we post them on our website. I don't know if that makes sense.
Doesn't make sense. How much money did the plaintiffs send you to produce T-shirts for them? How much money
did the T-shirts?
How much money did the plaintiffs send you to produce T-shirts for them? And I'd like to see the order.
Okay.
Can I see all the papers?
Would be the invoices for the T-shirts.
Thank you. Did they pay all of these invoices?
Yes.
Lex, would you add up these invoices for me, please? How many T-shirts were they supposed to have?
Total should have been approximately 320.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
How many did they receive? That's what this case is about.
Correct. They should have received at least 180.
So about half.
Correct.
It's not true.
Just a second.
Okay.
And you got paid.
Correct.
Well, at least for that number of shirts, they get their money back, right? Duh. For the number of T-shirts that you didn't send them, they get their money back.
Well, there was a couple other things that were taking into place, so that's
Like
kind of
what?
the issue. So there was a lot of changes that were being made.
Hold on a second. Lexi.
7996.
7996 is the total of all those invoices. Great. All I'm saying to you, Mr. Garcia, this is the case that we hear about. They're complaining that they got some T-shirts, but they were not what they ordered. You acknowledge that they didn't get half the T-shirts at all, and you didn't make them, and your website is now offline.
Well, that happens like every...
I don't care.
Yeah, okay.
I don't care. I don't know any other company that takes their website offline. I mean, I don't understand that.
I could give you a list of a couple.
I don't want you to give me a list of any. I want you to tell me why they're not entitled to at least half their money back.
So like I was stating, there was a bunch of other changes. So them not being happy with the garments that they received, that at the end of the day, I can't control. That is what they've ordered. I sent them pictures. I'm
talking about the ones that they didn't receive, sir, not the ones that they did.
Okay.
They were not happy, which they will tell me about the half that they received. You acknowledge that you didn't send them half of the ones that they ordered.
Correct.
Well, why should they pay for those? That's what I'm asking you to answer.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm trying to explain. So
Try to explain it to me so that Alexei understands it. He's much smarter than I am.
So when it comes down to custom manufacturing, there's a lot of other components that come into place. There were a lot of changing designs. There was a lot of remaking of screens for us to get the design onto the T-shirt that we had to do, that took up our time, that took up our money, that we didn't charge him for. So that's kind of where everything in terms of like the money goes to, is what we're saying. It's like, okay, if you're going to be making all these changes and then you're not happy with it, if you can see, I have pictures of me sending them a print of the T-shirt and them saying, oh, the print looks different. At the end of the day, we don't work on the designs. We don't change their designs. Whatever they send us is what we put on the T-shirt. If it doesn't come right on the T-shirt, that is not our fault. We don't make the design.
That sounds like a yada, yada, yada.
Claim their former supplier, Manuel Garcia, did not properly fulfill their T-shirt order and owes them a refund.
Let me see if I can give you the Reader's Digest of what he was saying and tell me if that's what you understood. Would you do that for me? They ordered 320 T-shirts. For all intents and purposes, and because of our easy math, he sent them half. They paid for 320. What he's saying is because they kept making changes, they spent more time on the half that they got, so they didn't feel that they had to send them the other half. Is that what you're getting?
Yes.
That's a duh. Do you understand? That's a duh. You know, I'm trying to think of an analogous situation for you. I'm a dentist's daughter, and I know that sometimes in my father's business, somebody would come in and he'd look at a tooth and he'd say, you know what? It's a simple filling, and I'm going to charge so much. And then he started to work. Patient said, okay, that's a reasonable figure, and he started to work. And all of a sudden he found, well, there was a little something else in there that he really had to do in order to do what he said he could do for $20. Mm-hmm. And so it took him more time. You think he charged the patient for that? No, he didn't. So you at least owe them half of what they sent you. They sent you $8,000. Let's make it nice and easy because I'm an easy girl. And you didn't send them half the T-shirts. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to talk about the T-shirts that you did send them. Because are we finished with the ones that you didn't? Yep. Now we're going to go to the ones that they did send, and you have to show me why they were unsatisfactory. Pick it up.
Perfect. So this is the sample that we received from him. So the way samples work is he'll send us the clothing, we'll A-OK it. So we A-OK this. This is a large, by the way. Everything's perfect, everything's great.
Okay, good.
So let me show you the XL and the small.
So this right here I'm holding is an XL. The difference. And you want to see another thing?
Smaller.
This is what I'm holding is a small. We ordered 4 small sizes, small, medium, large, and XL.
Hold on, can I see the smalls?
Yeah.
Can I see?
Still sorry. Here you go.
No. Well, this could be a small, a big small, but small. Can I see the extra small, please?
Extra large.
Extra large?
Yeah.
Same exact size.
They're the same size. The small and the extra large, if you hold them up together, they're exactly the same size.
Lexi, hold these up together, would you please? Let me see. He said they're the same size. I don't think so. Could I? One certainly looked bigger to me, but not a small and an extra large. Okay, now this is what I'd like you to do, Cassandra. I want you to send these over to the defendant, and I'd like him to explain to me why these are the same size. One is labeled small, one is labeled extra large. This has nothing to do with a change of design. Mm-hmm. This has to do with almost math, which, as we all know, is not my strong suit. Okay, so now give me an explanation, sir. This has nothing to do with changing of the design. That has to do with 2 T-shirts that are exactly the same. One says small, one says extra large. Explain it.
This is a very simple fix, so there was just an issue with the tag in the labeling.
Just a second. That's what you sent them.
Yeah, that's
Just
exactly my explanation. No, well, this is for the actual garment. What I was referring to was the print on the design.
No, I'm talking about the actual garment. Did you send that to them?
I did send
Just a second. You sent that to them with the label that was mislabeled.
Correct.
Okay. How many of the mislabeled T-shirts did you send them?
It's a very common mistake in manufacturing. I'm not sure. They didn't give me a number of how many were mixed up.
How many?
Exactly 73.
You see, what the problem, Mr. Garcia, is they can't sell those online because if somebody calls and orders a small and they send them a small, it's an extra large. Or if somebody calls and orders an extra large and they get it and it's got a small.
And that could be easily fixed by just changing
the tag. You know, my face could be easily fixed.
Both.
Not so easily anymore.
These are all just fixed. Yeah. I mean, they can all be fixed.
Yeah.
When it happens, it doesn't always have to be sent
yada, 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 yada. Okay, so half you didn't send them and 73 you sent them wrong. Of the other half, 73 you sent them wrong.
Correct.
You sent them wrong that they can't resell as you sent them online. I mean, they could send them to a pop-up store and sell them for nothing. And say, you know, you try it on and see whether it fits you. But you can't sell them online. Otherwise, their business would be destroyed. Okay, what about the rest? Now we're finished with the sizes.
He has claimed to sent us over 180 shirts. That's incorrect. He sent us 123 exactly.
Do you have any proof that you sent them 180 shirts?
I had them in text messages, but I don't have that phone. But I mean, I'm sure that
everybody that has no case has no phone.
I mean, I have.
Mr. Garcia, everybody
have
that
proof
has
that I
no
sent them
proof,
pictures, yes, I have
everyone,
photos.
then show it to me that you sent them 180 shirts.
Well, I don't have all 180 in the picture. I mean, I don't know if you'll be able to count them, but.
You want me to count them? You're in
necessarily.
business. Mr. Garcia.
You want to show her?
No, you're in business, sir. That's not the way you run a business. 120 they sent, and of the 120, how many were you able to sell?
Out of the 120?
Just a second. And out of the 120, does that include the 73 that were wrong size?
Yeah.
Oh, that includes.
So
the
we're
70
left with only 50 that weren't labeled incorrectly.
How many shirts did he send you that you were able to sell?
0. We sold none of his shirts.
Because they were mislabeled or you didn't
Mislabeled
get
or
them?
misprinted and didn't get them.
Great. Do you have any text messages between the two of you?
So many.
Anything in specific?
I'd like you to show me one where you say to him, we cannot sell these shirts, they're the wrong size.
We'll show you the demand letter. So we sent him a demand letter, hoping that he'd still like try to solve it outside of court, but he never replied to it and just never sent us anything.
It'd be us telling him that the items received were not as promised, and the other side would be the lawsuit issue.
Okay. You say in this demand letter that you are requesting, first of all, he doesn't communicate with you when you send him information back and forth. So you say, sir, since you do not wish to communicate us, here's an official demand letter.
Yes.
You say that you paid him $15,986.
Correct.
Well, that's not what your lawsuit is here.
Isaiah Kamchan and Brandon Uloa have accused their former supplier, Manuel Garcia, of owing them a refund after sending the wrong T-shirts.
Okay, did he send you any T-shirts?
No T-shirts.
So how much did you pay him?
All in all, minus the setup fees that we're also suing for, it is exactly...
No.
Oh, sorry.
I want to know where the $15,986 comes from.
So in this order, we did order 320 pairs of shirts, but we also ordered 240 pairs of shorts that we're not suing for.
Why?
He fulfilled that.
He fulfilled the short section.
He filled the short section?
Yeah, fulfilled the shorts.
Is that what's on your website for sale?
Yes.
Yes.
The shorts?
The shorts.
The shorts. So it's just the T-shirts?
Shirts.
So you did fulfill the order for the shorts?
Correct.
Do you have a pair of those shorts for me to see? I would just like to take a look at them.
No.
We did not, because we weren't aware. We weren't suing for those.
No, I understand that. Did he get the shorts with the same screening as on those, or are they different?
No, different
design.
So different setup fees, different screens. We paid for that. We're not suing for that portion.
We have invoices for them, though.
Can I see it?
Yeah. Shorts.
Of course, there were shorts on their website, right?
It might be in there.
Are they blue?
Right there.
Blue,
red, and black.
red, and black.
Blue, red, and black, and they just have a little design on.
Yeah, correct.
These are all invoices, but if you want to show a specific,
And they were okay.
they're gonna.
Yeah, they're okay.
Okay. Well, they're on your website, so you're selling them.
Yeah. So that's gonna be shorts for prints, and we also.
The T-shirts are not on their website, correct?
There are some. There.
Can I see?
There are two. One T-shirt.
Yeah, that's not it.
One T-shirt down.
And that's not it. Okay. So those are not on the website. Got it.
And one other, but that's also
That's not it. That's certainly not those T-shirts, not the same screen.
Something missing in there is the invoice for the shorts material. We are suing for the screens in that. That's the only reason that invoice is here. Because he charged us for owning of screens and films that he told us we had to pay for that we owned and we never received as well.
Screens and
yeah, so when...
Tell me, explain that to me.
So when making clothing, you pay for garments and then you have to pay for screens and film. So screens is like these big metal square frames and then you put a
Did
film
you pay for those?
Yes. We did, which are in those invoices. The only invoice we're missing is our shorts.
Did you receive those screens?
Well, I made them, so yeah, I had them.
Did you charge them?
Yes, I did charge them for them.
And where are they?
Well, we don't turn in the screen, so so the way that screen printing works is that when you burn screen, you hold them for only 2 months. You don't store them for months and months on end. So after 2 months, if they're not being used, if we're not printing with them, we recycle them.
Mm-hmm.
The film, I mean, the films is just a piece of paper that I do have handy, so.
He told us that we own them and we could receive them whenever we want them for future references. So that's why we had asked for the.
So you destroy them?
Correct.
Okay. So there we get to the $9,000. Actually, $9,100. Are you, Mr. Garcia, is your company incorporated in California? I forgot the answer to that question. Is not an answer.
No, I mean, I'm self-employed.
You're self-employed? You have a company, you said?
Yeah.
Well, if you have a company, then you have to be incorporated.
Well, I have like an LLC, is that what you're referring to?
Or an LLC. Do you have an LLC?
I do have an LLC, yes.
Do you have what's the name of it?
MFP Studios.
Do you find that registered in the state of California? Is it registered, sir?
It shouldn't, yeah, but it probably won't be under that name. It would be under All Hills.
Under what?
All Hills.
So a different name.
I have the paperwork. I don't know. I mean, doing business as MFP Studios.
Why?
That's just the way that I was set up. So that when I got an LLC, it was through one of my business partners at first. So then he just gave me.
How many business partners do you have?
I just have one.
Who is
well, he's
that?
not even a business partner. He just gave me that LLC so I could use it.
Great.
Yeah.
We're finished here. You haven't used his services. I can't say company. You haven't used his services since
No.
2022.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $9,100. We're finished.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Case is now closed. Court is adjourned.
She sided with them, and I mean, I just got to keep doing my business and just keep going, man.
I like that she was able to see that he was clearly taking advantage of us, so I'm happy she saw the same thing we saw.
It's just something that happens in this business. It happens more often than you think. Overseas, there's a bunch of cases. I don't know if she's familiar with the business, or I'm not sure. I know that it happens often. It was an easy fix. They could have still sold the shirts, but I just think they just didn't want to do it.
Why would he bother sending these knowing we never agreed on it?
If you've really been in the business, there's ways to do it where you can still sell it and make your money back to where you have a good relationship with your manufacturer.
Never tried working with us. Like, he would barely even respond. Like, he actually stopped even communicating with me because I threatened to sue him once, so then he started communicating with him.
But if, you come and you're just, I want a full refund, it's going to be very hard to even fix the issue versus just, it's more of a fix the issue thing than get everything done all over again.
But we tried our best for a whole year and nothing was happening, so that's when we're like, you know what, we can't let somebody walk all over us like this because it's our company. It's going to be detrimental if we wait even longer because it was past a year. So that's when we decided to sue them.
The constant changes, they weren't comprehending with my time schedules in terms of how I did things, and it didn't work out. They're also a long distance client. My clients usually come into my warehouse. We're more hands-on, so I don't think it's a good fit.
Definitely take baby steps, live and learn. You're gonna fall a little bit. It's just how you get back up.
A big lesson learned, for sure.
Rise to the occasion. That's what we always say. We'll be back better than ever.
My biggest takeaway was the power of credibility. Those plaintiffs came in, they knew exactly how much they paid for each item, they knew exactly what they received, and they had receipts to back it up. And when you have your day in court, it's important you have your arms fully around your own case.
Yeah. And it only made the defendant look that more implausible.
Absolutely.
The two of you are neighbors.
We are.
You filed harassment charges.
He actually screamed outside of my unit, "I hate you." Him constantly talking into my camera or making gestures at the camera.
That's not true.
Spitting, flicking me off.
Who is that?
This is Judy Justice. Douglas Auerbach is suing his neighbor, Rachel Capron, for lost wages, false charges, attorney fees, and harassment.
Court come to order. All right. Hello, Judge.
How are you?
Good. Case 3082, Auerbach Wu versus Caprion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Auerbach, how long have you lived in your current residence?
I've lived there since 2006, Your Honor.
Do you own it or rent?
I own it.
How many floors?
Pardon?
How many
Two floors. Yeah, 4 on each.
And the two of you are neighbors?
We are.
You live on the same floor?
She lives in a separate building, but we're both on the second floor.
Can you see her apartment from your apartment?
No, I can only see her door when I leave my apartment. I can't see her at all.
How far apart are the buildings?
17 feet.
When did you purchase your condominium?
July of 2019.
So you would live there more than a decade before the defendant moved in?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Ever had any difficulty before?
Never.
Okay. It is your claim, Mr. Auerbach, that the defendant since she moved in, has embarked upon a course of conduct that can only be described, if this is true, serious harassment that has forced you to retain lawyers, that has potentially impacted on your business. You are, I see, a registered pharmacist.
That is correct, Your Honor.
So I'd like you to tell me, sir, when the problem first started with the defendant.
Well, to my knowledge, it started for me May 26, 2022, when a police officer showed up at my house.
Just a second. So the defendant had already been there for 4 years.
Correct.
So people showed up at your door. Who was that?
Officer showed up and was asking me some bizarre questions, strange questions. Are you walking around in the evening? Asked me what my job was, which I thought was strange because I've lived in Fair Lawn since 2006. I file a tax return, so he should know that I'm a pharmacist.
Did anything come of that visit?
Well, he said there were some complaints.
You can't tell me what he said, because that's hearsay.
Yeah.
But did anything come from that visit?
Just that there was a complaint from the neighborhood. He didn't say neighbors, neighbor. And so I started asking my neighbors if there was a problem. And that's when I discovered that the defendant was...
Again, don't tell me hearsay. Ultimately, you and the defendant, it became an overt hostility. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
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 And since Mr. Auerbach doesn't know the genesis of your problem with him, why don't you tell me, when did you start to have, according to you, a problem with him?
Your Honor, I moved in July of 2019. Between July of 2019 and late 2021, I had noticed behavior. Marijuana was not legal in the state of Ohio. It is now legalized. But he was using marijuana outside on a very, very regular basis. Our condo units are very close in proximity. So he would be smoking outside and they'd be coming into my windows. As a matter of fact, I remember coming home from work one day and my entire unit smelled like marijuana. Not illegal, but like it's a nuisance for me.
In what year was that?
That was through the duration of 2021.
Just a second, that started in 2021.
That's correct.
Okay, but you moved in 2019. So in 2019, you didn't have a problem. In 2020, you didn't have a problem.
I had seen him using during those times. But
well, right now, marijuana use is legal. It's not illegal. Not illegal, and according to you, you could only see him outside.
Right in front of my windows.
It was in front of your windows, which, according to you, impacted inside your apartment on occasion. You smelled it inside your apartment. So what did you do?
So late 2021, I had acquired these issues with Mr. Auerbach.
Now, what issues did you acquire with him? So far, you smelled marijuana. What did you do as a result of seeing Mr. Auerbach smoke marijuana or smell it in your apartment when you came home? What did you do?
Late 2021, I overheard Mr. Auerbach and his former girlfriend arguing very extremely. They had actually left their door wide open, and I heard this woman screaming. And knowing that he had
been... Just a second. Screaming what?
Just fighting.
She wasn't screaming, ah! She was screaming at him.
That's correct.
He was screaming at her.
That's correct.
Okay, you didn't hear her screaming. You heard two people having a fight.
I heard her
You heard two people having a fight.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I called the police.
Okay. Do you recall what it is that you said to the police?
I told the police that there was a disturbing fight happening in front of my unit, and it seemed to be violent. And I was just worried for that girl. And I remember what she was saying, but I don't know if that's appropriate to say here.
Douglas Auerbach claims his neighbor, Rachel Capron, owes for lost wages and attorney fees after making false accusations. Rachel is countersuing Douglas for harassment and emotional distress.
Now, I'd like to know what she was saying. I'm not accepting it for the truth of whether or not she actually said it, but I'd like to hear what you tell me you heard or what you tell me you relayed to the police.
Sure. She had said that he was a predator, was her word, and that he had created a fake Facebook profile to hit on her friend. is the words that I heard from his former girlfriend.
So it was a domestic fight. So that's not screaming. According to you, that's factual. She wasn't screaming, "Get off me, you're hurting me." They were having a fight about a Facebook page she created that she didn't like. So now you interjected yourself by calling the police, and you were frightened for the girl. So far, she sounds as if she can protect herself, based upon what you tell me. So you called the police. And do you remember when that was?
That was October of 2021.
That's not true.
Say nothing. When did the problems start that you refer to in your answer about the parking spaces in front of your condo?
Yes, so on February 6th of 2022, again, I called the police because of Mr. Auerbach's behavior.
No. You called the police because you heard, saw what?
This was when foreign guests were coming into and out of his home multiple hours throughout the day and the night. I had known that he was a pharmacist just through the talk of the neighborhood. But
well, it's not the talk of the neighborhood unless you're talking or listening. You saw foreign people coming in and out of his apartment, so you called the police.
That's correct.
That was the second call that you made?
That's correct.
Okay. I want you to get to the parking spaces.
Sure.
You don't have assigned spaces in the front of the building, correct?
That's correct.
But in front of your building, there are certain spaces. In front of his building, there are certain spaces, but they're not assigned.
Yes.
According to what I read, he was parking in front of your building.
Once the issues between Mr. Auerbach and myself came up, he started parking all of his vehicles immediately in front of my unit so that when I come home from work, I have nowhere to park. I can choose to park in my garage, but I have no spaces.
When you say the issues arose, he wasn't having any issues with you. At that time, you were having issues with him.
That's correct.
You were having issues with him with smoking marijuana. You were having issues with him with having foreign visitors that you didn't recognize or know. So far, he didn't have any issues with you. Did the police respond on both instances, do you know?
When I called the police in late October of 2021, I know they came out to just do a basic well check. On February 6, 2022, when I called the police for him acting odd and having the foreign people coming in and out of his unit, he actually screamed at my window, "Clean up your dog, I hate you." And at that moment, it was very early in the morning.
Just a second. That was after your second call to the police. What happened next?
I purchased a Ring doorbell camera.
So you bought a Ring camera, and?
I bought the Ring camera, and from that day, I have now to this day hundreds of videos of him harassing me.
And other than these two calls to the police, did you make any other calls to the police about him?
Yes.
How many?
There were 6 total over the last 2+ years, 6 total reports.
Did you ever ask him to park his cars in front of his own building?
No, because at this...
Did you ask anyone else, like the condo association, anyone else, to ask him to park his cars in front of his own building?
I had brought that to the HOA attention.
When you say you brought it to the HOA, you went to the homeowners association.
I did.
And when you went to the homeowners association, in what month and year was that?
Approximately March of 2022.
Did you go to them in person or by mail?
By email.
I'd like to see it.
Unfortunately, I don't have that email.
Do you remember the complaint that you made when you sent an email to the homeowners association?
I do.
Well, in your best terms, what did you complain about?
I just said, I understand that there are no assigned parking spots, but he's got 6, 8 spots in front of his. I have 4. And ever since we've started to have problems with one another, he started parking 1, 2, or 3 of his vehicles in front of mine.
Not true.
And was that the only complaint that you made? Was that all that you said in the email to them?
Yes, it was strictly parking.
Did they respond to you?
They did.
And what was the response?
Parking is not assigned.
Parking is not assigned. Right. Now, there came a point where you filed harassment charges against him, and there was a trial.
That's not true. There was no trial.
You filed harassment charges again. Were you arrested, sir?
No, I was cited though. I stopped at my house.
And did you both appear at some sort of a hearing with regard to that?
Yes.
When was that?
I filed the protection order on June 29th, 2022.
And you served him. Do you have a copy of that complaint?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Okay. So this says, after reporting he has harassed and verbally via telecommunications and has physically stalked me, after reporting his drug use to the police, comments of "go kill yourself," some very bad language, have been made through my security camera. He also flips me off while shouting, again, expletive, into my camera. He watches me from his window when I walk outside.
It's not true.
Now, when you appeared together, what place did you go to? A courthouse?
Yes.
And did you appear before a judge?
Yes.
What month did you appear before a judge in 2022?
I have noted that October 7th of 2022, the charges that he had received were in fact dropped. But when...
Just a second. I'm not there yet.
Douglas Auerbach has accused his neighbor, Rachel Capron, of harassing him and making false accusations. Rachel says Douglas has been excessively harassing her through her Ring camera.
You went together with him to a courthouse. What happened when you went with him to the courthouse?
So the first time we went to the courthouse, we had gone on 2 different occasions. The first time we met with a judge and I was given the opportunity to testify. I went up on the stand and I gave her a summary of what he's been doing to me. During this testimony, the judge actually pulled the counsel into the back room. And when she came out, she said, "Mr. Auerbach, I see what you're doing." She said, "I see you looking at her."
I want to know what happened with that case. You testified. You had a lawyer. He had a lawyer.
I didn't have a lawyer at that time.
You said you had a public defender.
Right, a public defender. I hadn't hired.
Just a second. A public defender is a lawyer.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Just because you're not paying for it doesn't mean he or she is not a lawyer. You had a lawyer.
Yes.
And after you testified, what happened?
The hearing was continued.
To another day.
That's correct.
And what happened on the next date, which was when?
The next date was October 7th of 2022.
Okay, and what happened on that date?
So my public defender was there. We just waited, and she came over to me and said that the case was dismissed. I never saw anybody or talked to
just
anybody.
A second. You came back the next time, and your case was dismissed.
Yes.
So do you have a decision with regard to that? Do you have a decision with regard to that? I'm just curious as to what happened.
Well, there was actually 7 court dates that I attended. Those first few were arraignments.
Does anybody have any written document with regard to what happened at that hearing?
I have the court details right here with the dismissed.
Well, all it says is dismissed. I don't know.
Well, it's the whole court detail.
Just a second.
It'll illuminate on all the court dates that she's forgotten about.
Mr. Auerbach. Oh, yeah, there were a lot of court dates.
There were a lot.
You didn't have to agree with me, sir. That's a statement. So there was nothing but a dismissal. And it was a dismissal after you testified. After you testified, the case was ultimately dismissed. I'm not entertaining your case because your case has already been adjudicated. It was dismissed, so I'm not hearing that. It's not that it was dismissed on some technicality. You, in fact, testified. Your case against him has already had its day in court. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's get back to false charges, lost wages. Now, Mr. Auerbach, false charges. He has harassed me via telecommunications. Okay, so that's what you say. I want you to tell me exactly what telecommunications you've referenced.
So I have a video that I would like to show on the big screen. If you would...
Just a second. Is that the telecommunications that you're talking about?
Yes. So on the Ring camera, him constantly talking into my camera or making gestures at the camera of my home.
And that was after you called the police several times on the defendant, who was never arrested as a result of any of those complaints. No charges ever filed against him. And then you put a Ring camera in because he said something about cleaning up after your dog. That frightened you. I must admit, I am less than ladylike, I think, when I see somebody who's failing to pick up after their dog. As far as I'm concerned, it should be a felony, punishable by 15 to life.
I've never not picked up. I have a little Shih Tzu, and
I'm just telling you.
Lots of Shih Tzu.
I always pick up.
So now I'd like to see, after you put a Ring camera in, because after you started to have trouble with him, according to you,
yes,
for doing nothing that was illegal, but for which you called the police several times, now I'll see your video.
Standing on my doorstep.
Flicking me off, spitting, flicking me off.
That stupid dog.
This is every day.
Like, oh, thankful, grateful, blessed. Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm going to be paying you.
Get shot.
You talked to my daughter.
When he attacked my dad.
I never talked to her before. Talk to me. Get me. Talk to me. No. No, man to man. Man to man.
You want to tell me to go kill myself? And my camera call me back? Every day.
Just a second. Who are those people?
So the rainbow hoodie is myself. The person with the flannel was my dad, who
okay, so that was your father.
Seconds prior,
that was just
attacked outside in the parking lot.
I don't know about that or not. I asked who it was. Sure. I didn't see any attack. I saw that you're not getting along. Okay, keep going.
Every day, dude. Why don't you leave me alone? I'm 25 years younger than you.
Anything else?
It's the end of the video.
Thank you.
That's
has physically stalked me.
Yes.
I want to know how he has physically stalked you. Is that what I just saw? Or you're talking about follows you to your job, follows you to... Let me hear.
Sure.
Never.
So I have a little Shih Tzu that I walk around my neighborhood. And when I'm walking her, he has gotten into his Camaro, came up right next to us, puts it in neutral, and rums his engine at me as I'm walking my dog, me minding my business, looking straight. I don't say anything back. I just keep going till I get home to my house.
How many times had you called the police on him? Because you see, you hadn't had any trouble with him, which is what I'm having a problem wrapping my head around. They made a complaint to the police that you had threatened them with a gun.
Correct.
And you didn't see a firearm.
He was telling me to get off of his property, screaming accusations. I turned and ran.
He didn't have a firearm.
Everything they've said is lies.
You consciously lied to the police, and it could have been tragic.
This is Judy Justice. Donald Sullivan is suing his tenants, William Callahan and Aaron Crowcroft, for loss of income, a false restraining order, and filing a false police report.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 3109, Sullivan versus Callahan, Crowcroft.
Mr. Callahan, how long have you been a tenant of the plaintiffs?
I've personally been a tenant for 3 years. Aaron here has been a tenant for 11.
And you live together?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else live in the house?
My partner.
Okay. And how long has your partner been in the house?
Me and him have been in the house 12 years. We're the original tenants.
And are you a tenant of his?
Yes, Your Honor.
What do you pay in rent?
We pay $1,000 a month in rent.
You pay to Mr. Crowcroft?
No, I'm paying for the entirety of the rent myself.
Why is that?
Because he's mentally disabled and doesn't have a source of income right now, so I am his caretaker primarily.
Okay, let's start again. You've been living in the house for 11 years.
11 or 12, yeah. We moved in January 1st, 2012. That's our official move-in date.
And you have a partner?
Yes, I do.
Male or female?
Male.
Does that partner work?
Yes, he does.
What kind of work?
Retail.
Sales?
Yes, retail sales like Walmart.
And what is the nature of your disability?
I'm severely bipolar with Asperger's syndrome and ADHD.
Did you ever work?
I've worked on and off, but I've never been able to maintain work. I've tried. I've never been able to.
Get Social Security?
Not yet, but I'm applying for it as we speak.
How old are you?
I'm 38.
How have you been supporting yourself?
My parents, and then he came into my life.
How did he come into your life?
We've known each other online for a very long time.
Does he get along with your partner?
Yes, very, very much so.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a truck driver.
You work for a company?
Yes, I work for a company.
Long haul?
I do a lot of the local, regional stuff, so all within the state of Wisconsin.
Okay. You don't go on trips longer than a day or two?
No, I'm usually home every night.
And how much do you earn at that job?
About $2,200 a week.
And what do you get paid for, and by whom, as a caretaker?
I don't get paid by anyone. I'm just helping him out, so I'm not officially his caretaker or anything, but as a friend, I'm just helping take care of him.
I got it. So you're not a caretaker of his. I misunderstood. Did you apply to be a caretaker?
No, ma'am.
No, because you're gone all day.
Yes, sir.
So Mr. Crowcroft is alone all day.
Yes, sir.
And his partner is in sales, so he's not there during the day.
Yes, sir.
And you pay the entire rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Sullivan, this is your claim. Your claim is that an incident occurred and the defendants alleged to the police that you had a gun and you were at home at the time. Police came to the house. There was a scene. They advised you probably by bullhorn to come out of the house with your hands up. Is that right?
Correct.
You did. You had no gun, but you were in fact taken into custody for that brief period of time. You allege falsely based on a false complaint of theirs to the police. The defendants acknowledge that they made a complaint to the police, but say that the police misunderstood them, that you had threatened them with a gun. That's your defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
When did this incident occur?
It was November 6th after midnight, so November 7th until about 3 a.m.
What year?
Of
2023.
Yeah, 2023.
Okay. Tell me first, who called the police?
I was the one who called the police that night.
All right, Mr. Callahan. Tell me what happened that night that caused you to call the police.
Originally, I had went to talk with his son because I had received a call from anonymous number.
From Mr. Sullivan's son?
No, not from Mr. Sullivan's son. But
no, you went to talk to Mr. Sullivan's son.
Correct.
Is that his son?
No, we're talking about Donald John Sullivan.
Okay, so he's not here.
No, no.
So you went to talk to his son, and where does his son live?
So according to the map there, our defendant's house, our house there.
Got it. So you left your house at what time?
I want to say it was about 11:45 p.m. on the 6th of, that was November.
Okay, so that was on the 6th of November. And what caused you to leave your house at 11:45?
I had, like I said, I had received an anonymous call that someone was investigating his son for the sale and possession of marijuana.
Okay, so you received a call.
Yes, Your Honor.
From someone you don't know. Did they leave a message, or was it a actual call that you picked up?
Completely unavailable number.
Okay, and that the plaintiff's son, who lives in the middle of where you live and the plaintiff lives.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you must be friendly with him.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, we are. We're on good terms.
You must be if you went there and got this information. How come you didn't call him?
I have text messages to him, but unfortunately that phone was lost and destroyed, so I haven't been able to recover those yet, and I'm trying to. We're also trying to get his original police report about an assault that occurred.
Why is it that these lost phones always happen within weeks of a lawsuit? That is interesting to me.
Well, that one was actually replaced in December.
I don't care if it was replaced in December, it's just unfortunate for your proof.
Donald Sullivan claims his tenants, William Callahan and Aaron Crowcroft, filed a false police report and a false restraining order against him.
Okay, so you walked over to the plaintiff's son's house and told him you had received an anonymous call that somebody was selling marijuana out of his house.
No, that someone was purporting that he was selling marijuana out of his house.
Who was selling?
Donald John Sullivan.
I understand that marijuana was being sold out of his son's house.
Yes.
Okay. And then what happened?
We talked it over. After we talked it over, I returned back home. There was no issue at that point.
You didn't go over there because there was an issue. I gather you went over there because you were his friend and you wanted to alert him.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then you went home. Come on, let me hear.
And then from there, I had gone back inside and leashed up my dog and then noticed I was out of cigarettes. So I had called him and was like, hey, do you have any cigarettes?
What do you mean you called whom?
Donald John Sullivan,
So now you telephoned him?
Yes.
After having gone over there to have a discussion about the call?
Yes.
You telephoned him, you said, I'm out of cigarettes. So now this is 12 o'clock.
Correct, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
From there, I went back over to retrieve a cigarette for myself, and this is where the incident occurred. There was
Well, tell me what happened.
After he had given me a cigarette, I went to return. Mr. Sullivan was at the corner of the house.
Show me where.
So at the corner of the house here is where Mr. Sullivan was postponed because I feel he knew the position.
No, don't tell me what you feel. I don't care what you feel. You were between your house, right at the edge of where the plaintiff's son lives, and your house. So you went there to get a regular cigarette.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah. And is marijuana legal in your state, by the way?
No.
No. You went there to get a cigarette at midnight, and you claim that the plaintiff came out
Yes, Your Honor.
of his house, and what happened?
I think you might have messed up the timeline there. The plaintiff didn't come out of his house. The plaintiff was already over here.
When you came to get the cigarette, the plaintiff was there already?
Yes.
Okay, so you called, and the plaintiff was already there. You said you're coming for a cigarette.
Yes, Your Honor.
Beginning to think that somebody is peeing on my leg. Go ahead.
And
this is at midnight?
Yes, Your Honor.
Keep going.
Then from there, whenever I saw him, he immediately saw me, started screaming accusations.
Just a second. Come and step back here now for a moment. I want you to tell me what Mr. Sullivan said to you.
He was telling me to get off of his property and get out of his house.
Okay. And what did you say to him?
I did not say anything back. I turned and ran.
Okay, and?
From there, I ran through our houses to the road there.
Now you can go back.
So I ran from here.
Yes.
Up through the middle of our house and our garage here, down the neighbor's driveway.
Why'd you just go home?
I didn't feel like I would be safe at home.
Why?
I don't own any firearms or anything to protect.
He didn't have a firearm.
I know, that's where the police messed up with
Just a second. Police didn't mess up. I want to know, you're running, but you ran past your house because you said you didn't have any firearms in your house. He didn't have a firearm, and you didn't see a firearm.
No, Your Honor.
So why would you worry about having a firearm in your house? How old are you?
32.
How old is he?
74.
Yeah. You understand I'm not buying your story.
Okay.
You do understand that I'm not buying your story. Back. Do you have a copy of the police report?
Yes,
Police
I do.
were called. The defendant, Mr. Callahan, acknowledges that he called the police. Mr. Crowcroft, you did not call the police.
No, I wasn't awake. I wasn't awake.
You did not call the police. Well, that's what this case is all about. Did you speak to the police?
No.
Well, Mr. Callahan, this is very clear in this police report. Actually, couldn't be clearer. The police were dispatched. It was not a mistake, as you allege, that the police didn't mistake anything. They were dispatched over a call that said that Mr. Sullivan pointed an AR-15 type rifle at him while speaking to the plaintiff's son. That's what it said in the police report. Now, I've read your answer to this, sir, and your answer suggests that the police got it wrong.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's what the answer says. However, the police did an investigation, and I'm going to read to you what they say, sum and substance. Callahan, that would be you, admitted that he made up the incident because he feared for his roommate. I told Callahan that he was pathetic. Callahan stated he might as well blow his brains out and stated that it would do me a favor. Callahan was arrested, that would be you, for obstruction. The officers had conducted a follow-up because they were shown film footage, which evidently was from a Ring camera that the plaintiff's son has, showing the entire incident, which clearly suggested that there was no AR-15, there was no gun pointed at all. And when you were confronted with that footage, you said, all right, I made up the incident. That's what you said. This wasn't a question of the police getting the report wrong. You acknowledge you made up the incident. Okay. Mr. Sullivan, why are you suing Mr. Crowcroft?
For several things. For one, he cost me loss of income because I had a young lady that was going to rent my house for $50.
Where is she?
She couldn't get off work.
Not interested in it.
I do have a certified statement.
I don't read certified statements, sir. Why are you suing him? We have the guy who made the false police report. He acknowledged it to the police that he made a false report. Why Mr. Crowcroft?
Well, because he was in on it. I mean, so far, everything they've said is lies. As far as the people that lived there, there's 4 people that were living there.
I don't care. Right now, all I have here is what you allege is a false arrest. Your humiliation about that, and you are absolutely right, and you are entitled to be compensated for that.
And if you look on that police report, it was 7 days later that I found out. Other than that, I had to live with the fear that I was going to be arrested. I was ordered out of my house.
Just a second, I get it all, and I think that that's horrible, and he's going to pay for that. I'm trying to get to Mr. Crowcroft, why he's a defendant.
They also filed a false restraining order.
Who did?
Mr. Crowcroft and William, both.
Just a second. Forget about Callahan. He's already guilty.
Donald Sullivan has accused his tenants, William Callahan and Aaron Crowcroft, of lying to the police by claiming Donald was armed with an assault rifle.
He lied to the police. He lied to the police about a very serious situation because if things had been different, it's in the middle of the night. If you had some police officer who was nervous and you came out of the house, it could have been tragic, reporting that you had a serious weapon in the house in the middle of the night. He's already guilty. Crowcroft, did you file for a protective order?
He did for me, yes. He had my permission to do so, for a restraining order to keep him away from me.
Well, just a second. If you filed for a restraining order, on what date did you file for a restraining order?
William?
That was the 5th.
November 5th, 2023.
The day before this incident?
The day before the incident?
Just a second. The day before the incident. And on what basis did you file a restraining order against him?
William, what was the
What was the basis? I'm asking you.
I don't know the details. He's the one who took care of the paperwork for me because I didn't understand it.
Who signed it? You?
Yeah, I did sign it.
Just a second. I'd like to see it.
I have it here, Your Honor.
By the way, when I'm looking at this, Mr. Sullivan, you both still living in the house, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a lease now, or is
there hasn't been a lease in 11 years. We only had one for the first year.
I got it. Okay. So you're a month-to-month tenant?
Yes.
When was the last time that rent was paid?
William?
That would be, oh geez, what are we in?
We're in January.
That was January 1st, 2024.
Of this year?
Yes, Your Honor.
So they're up to date in their rent?
Yes.
Now, I don't see what the basis was for your protective order.
For the protective order, we ordered it because in the previous year...
No. I want to know him, not you. Him.
Why was it filed? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, you need facts for a protective order.
Because Donald followed me around. He was harassing me. He would not leave me alone. He kept coming over, asking questions, and just being rude. I would be sitting in the garage. He'd come walking up, and he'd be demanding things out of me, and just... He knows I'm bipolar, and he knows that kind of interaction is very hard for me.
I think you should move, actually. I actually think that you should move.
I'd love to.
Well, you should. You're not paying any rent. You might as well not pay rent someplace else. Take them with you. If you have issues and they're exacerbated by the plaintiff, move. You've been there 12 years. You got somebody else to pay the rent. Move. Okay, anyway, the maximum jurisdiction for this court, and I'm dismissing your case against Mr. Crowcroft. Do you understand?
Okay.
nothing happened was a result of this protective order. What happened to you was a result of Mr. Callahan's false reporting to the police that you had a weapon, which could have resulted in a tragedy, which caused you to be removed from your home, as per directed by the police. You say that neighbors came out, I'm sure when the police arrived. There was more than one police car or just one?
5.
5 police cars. At what time in the night?
12:30.
In the morning?
Yes.
Yeah, frightening. Frightening for anybody. More frightening for somebody in their 70s, and absolutely outrageous because you consciously lied to the police. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished here. Thank you.
Court adjourned.
I'm not truly in agreement with them because the police did try to bring up charges against me, but they dropped those because they found the video was edited.
I was very happy with it.
There's a lot of information that was missed out on.
I hope it sets an example for people that make false police reports.
Mr. Sullivan's always been a very hostile person, and this is just a continuation of that.
The incident happened the day after they were served their eviction by the sheriff's department.
No, the eviction was thrown away, and his son actually took over the property and has begun remaking the repairs because his eviction was retaliatory against us for calling code enforcement because the house is just withering away and he just sits there with his hands folded and does nothing.
Well, I was ordered to come out of the house with my hands above my head.
At that time, I didn't see a firearm in his hand. What I had reported to the police was I was approached aggressively by Mr. Sullivan.
And they said it's a very serious matter. When I come out of the house, they ordered me to lift up my shirt and turn around and told me that they'd probably be coming back to arrest me.
I told them to be wary, he does own firearms, and they took that as me saying he had a firearm that night.
I was accused of pointing an AR-15 at a tenant that I'm trying to evict.
I never claimed anything about an AR-15 with the report. I just stated to the police on the phone that he had weapons.
My little sister was crying in the house because she thought my dad was going to jail. I was calling up my family, telling them that we might need to go somewhere because I thought my dad was going to jail.
Don't lie to the police, and definitely do something about your roommates being assaulted before it's too late.
I'm just happy to be alive, and I'm happy to have it over with.
Very surprising to me that after doing this investigation, which was clear from the police report that I read, and he confessed to lying to the police to get the police to the house, lying about somebody having an automatic weapon, that they didn't arrest him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he might have said they did arrest him, but then they didn't end up charging him.
Right.
But I'm surprised that they didn't follow through on charges. I mean, he's just lucky that on the way to the home, 5 police cars speeding, didn't hit anybody, hit another vehicle, get in an accident. Lucky nothing more serious happened to the plaintiff either as a result of the false reporting, because then it's not just an oopsie. Then you have a big problem on your hands because of a lie that you told police knowingly.
Yeah. So it is surprising to me that they didn't follow through.
Yeah, I thought
they dispatched 5 police cars. That alone should have made the police annoyed enough to at least follow through.
Exactly. I thought that was a more serious crime, reporting falsely to the police, than they seem to have treated it as.
Yeah.
Back and forth to each other.
Then you kept dating him and giving him more money.
I was vulnerable.
I would say we both were vulnerable.
And you're also, a little bit of a con guy.
I've been doing lashes since 2008.
You've been doing what?
Lashes.
Lashes.
Esthetician, yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
Since 2018.
Okay. Mr. Quinones was a short-term boyfriend.
We were never together. We were dating.
You were dating?
Dating.
Dating sufficiently that he asked you for, according to you, some money for an investment. Miss Dooley, I'm not invested in your story so far. You understand that?
Yes.
Because if he asked you for an investment in August of 2021, that's what you said.
Yes.
And he asked you, according to you and according to his answer, $10,000, right?
Well,
according to you, according to his answer, she sent me $10,000, and he acknowledges that. He acknowledges that you sent him $10,000. You know who doesn't acknowledge that? Moi. I do not acknowledge that. Now, in August of 2021, you sent him $3,605. Do you know that I don't believe that that was $10,000 for a bunch of cars and investment? Then you didn't send him money again, according to this. You sent him $200 the end of October. Then you sent him another $200 Then you sent him $100. Then you sent him $2,500, and it says in that for car. Not the other. It says in that one for car. That was, oh my God, it looks like it was sometime in October, although I don't have dates on this one. Now, if you're going to try to convince me that this was a $10,000 loan that you made to him, you're going to have to show me contemporaneously with this August 2021 some communication with him. Okay?
Okay.
This is August 11th. Where's my moolah? Would that be you?
I sent that.
August of what year?
21.
August 11th of 2021, you say, where's my money? What are you talking about?
The $5,000 that he promised for the car. When he sold the car, he was going to give me $15,000 back.
You hadn't given him that money in August of 2021.
I did. It just doesn't say the dates.
No, this doesn't say anything about $10,000, madam.
They're broken up, that's why.
I understand it's broken up, but it's broken up in October.
No, that's on top of the $10,000.
What? Well, just show me the $10,000.
Well, it's broken up, so I highlighted it.
You have $2,500, but it's listed under October dates. I don't understand this 3605. What was $3,605 for, Mr. Quinones? Do you remember?
I don't remember that number, no, Your Honor. I don't remember what it was used for.
She sent you other monies over a period of time, $200, $100, $200. What was that for?
The smaller amounts, Your Honor, those were probably just when we were dating and we were sending money back and forth to each other.
Well, show me that you were sending her money.
No, he was just always asking for money.
Well, why were you giving it to him?
Because I felt bad because he was broke and he said he couldn't buy his daughter Christmas presents.
So what?
In October.
I'm a giver.
Well, then what are you coming to court for?
To get my loan back that he said he was going to pay me back.
Really? He said he was going to pay you back?
The little amounts are nothing. That's nothing to me.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
You understand that I am actually getting you. However, you loaned him money, according to you, in August of 2021. He didn't pay you back. You asked him for money because you said he sold a car, right? And he never sent it to you, right?
Yes.
And after that, you sent him more money.
Yeah.
And kept sending him money for months. So each time you sent him more money, he never made one payment on this alleged loan.
Because he's a narcissist and he love-bombed me.
He what?
Love-bombed me.
What is that?
It's a term that narcissists do and they pretend that they're somebody else, like making promises.
Well, that's an old story, but that's not a court case. If you give him money and he says, this is for this, when I sell a car, I'll give it back to you, that's great. And then he sells a car, he doesn't give you any money, and then you give him more money. And he still doesn't give you any money, and he needs more money. So you send him more money. At some point, you have to say to yourself, this is not a loan anymore, this is my own stupidity.
Rebecca Dooley claims her ex-boyfriend, Isaiah Quinones, sold multiple cars that she paid for and kept all the money.
Now, you have to say to yourself, this is not a loan anymore, this is my own stupidity, right?
Yeah, well, he was telling me that he was going to get a check coming in the mail. He sent me like screenshots. He was on the phone with some people that owed him a check that he sent me, that they were going to give it to him.
Mr. Quinones, what were you supposed to do with this money?
I was supposed to purchase vehicles to flip them and earn money on them.
Is that what you told her?
Yes, ma'am.
I see that you have a paucity of evidence in front of you, which means very little evidence in front of you. How many cars did you buy?
I bought 2, Your Honor.
When?
In August of that year.
Okay. And how much did you pay for them?
Altogether, it was $9,500 that came out to in total.
And how much did you sell them for?
I actually lost money on them, Your Honor. So I actually ended up getting back about $8,000.
And how much did you put in, sir, of your money into the $9,000 that you spent on the 2 cars?
Nothing into the $9,000.
Fine. So you put nothing into the 9 and you got back 8.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that 8 was her money.
Yes, Your Honor. And we.
So that 8,000 was her money. Your investment was losing, but so far you're ahead of the game, $8,000.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right?
Yes.
So far you got $8,000 in your pocket. You put in zippity doodah.
Yes, ma'am.
And keep going.
The next time around.
What do you mean the next time around?
So I told her I was going to purchase more vehicles.
Yeah, and
And I actually put some of my own money in at that time as well. So I put back in another $2,000
Just
myself.
a second. And how much did you spend for those cars?
It came out to $10,000 altogether.
$10,000 altogether?
Altogether.
Okay. And of that $10,000, $8,000 was hers?
Yes.
And what'd you do with those cars?
I sold those vehicles, Your Honor.
And how much did you sell them for?
Altogether, both cars came out to about $7,500. So I lost money on
So you're a lousy businessman, sir.
I was at selling cars, yes.
You were a miserable businessman at first, and you were, according to you, your track record is consistently miserable.
Yes, Your Honor. That's why I got out of that and stopped selling cars.
Okay. Let's say I believe you. Is that what you told her? You ended up losing money on both things?
Yes.
Because that's what you said.
Yes,
you
Your
said it was an investment, not a loan. But we didn't make money.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right? But so far, if I take your figures, you had $8,000 of her money.
Yes, Your Honor.
You put in $2,000 of your own money and then bought cars for $10,000. Sold those cars for $7,500. So best case scenario, if you take back your $2,000 investment, you still have $5,000 of her money.
Yes, Your Honor. And this was never an issue because, like Rebecca said, we were supposedly just dating, but it was an actual relationship we were in. And we actually started getting closer. I had a job on the side as well, but during that time, I was on family leave because I ended up having kidney stones. So I was in the hospital a lot. And I was letting her know, like, hey, I'm trying, but it's not working right now. And I ended up losing money on our investments.
You lost money, but you ended up with money in your pocket.
Yes, Your
Do you
Honor.
understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
If she got back all the money she put in as an investment and you were out $2,000, and I don't believe you actually put in $2,000. You have any proof that you put in $2,000?
I don't have that bank account anymore, Your Honor. And
You don't have that bank account. I don't have that cell phone that got erased.
She says I keep secrets or I'm a liar. I honestly know I'm not a liar. Maybe a bad businessman, but
You're
not a liar.
bad businessman, and you're also, a little bit of a con guy. Mm-hmm. You're also a little bit of a con guy, because if you have a girlfriend and you say, listen, I want to do something for an investment, and you try it out and it doesn't work out and you have losses, and so far, you don't have any losses. She has losses.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Miss Dooley, you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds as if you made an investment, not a loan. And you were hoping for two things. You were hoping you could keep him, although I don't know why. You were hoping you could keep him, but you were also going to make money. But then he didn't sell the cars for what he said he was going to sell the cars for. You kept giving him money. Now, you can't, even if it was an investment, you can't keep her money.
Yes.
If you lost money on the cars, did he ultimately tell you he lost money on the cars?
No, he said that he sold the cars.
Did he tell you for how much?
No, he just said the car's already sold. So that's why I was waiting for my money. That's why I said, where's my money?
Yeah, but then you kept dating him and giving him more money.
Yeah.
Okay. If I believe you, bought the cars, sold the cars, you lost money, but you still ended up with cash in your pocket.
Yes, Your Honor.
How much?
It was about $7,500.
That's what it was, according to the math.
Yes, Your Honor.
Judgment for the plaintiff, $7,500. Even if it was an investment, she's entitled to it if you lost money. She's entitled to her money back.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're a smart lady. You're a business person. You work hard,
I know. The love about me. I was vulnerable.
I would say we both were vulnerable.
Yeah, but you were vulnerable. You got richer.
I understand that, Your Honor. I understand where you're coming from, what you're saying. But that money, at the end of the day, we were together. I found out she was actually married at the time or had her husband at the time. She ended up leaving her husband for me.
And?
We ended up not together. The money thing wasn't an issue the whole time we were together. The money thing wasn't an issue.
I understand, but you said to me, sir.
No, yes,
Mr.
Your Honor, I
Quinones,
understand.
you said to me in your answer that this was a business investment. She says it was a loan. I don't believe that. I don't buy it. And ordinarily, I would just say goodbye, your case is dismissed. But I think she did give you money, and I think you did use it to buy cars. I think you actually were together. But you ended up making a profit. She had the loss. And that's unfair in a business relationship, if that's what you say it was. $7,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
I understand where the judge is coming from and saying that I owe her that money.
Yeah, I just ended up falling for it because I was in a vulnerable state.
I didn't agree with me being a con man.
The truth is he's a liar, and he's a narcissist, and he's a scammer and con artist.
For the 7-8 months we were together, there was no issues. And it wasn't until we broke up that all of a sudden there's an issue.
So I got mixed up with the wrong person.
I've been here a while now, and we've seen this scenario over and over. I don't think I've seen a single successful investment loan from a woman to a man where it worked out positively for
We don't see those here,
for the woman.
As she said, and we were talking back here, you were trying to explain to me the term love
bombing.
Love bombing. Do it one more time.
From what I understand, I'm not an expert on the matter, but it's when your partner shows you affection or gifts or trips.
You mean a new partner?
No, a very new partner. And there's some psychological explanation as to why it has the other person completely off guard and fully trusting of that person who's doing that. And then they slowly start to retract that love and affection, leaving the other person sort of...
With a lighter bank account.
Yes.
Well, that's what